When anger surges within, your heart races, your chest tightens, and your mind feels clouded. Words you didn't mean to say escape your lips. Actions you didn't intend to take happen before you even realize it. What follows is often regret, guilt, and a feeling of being out of control. This moment of anger, however brief, can create lasting damage to relationships, peace of mind, and your overall well-being. You've been there before, haven't you? We all have. Whether it's a disagreement with a loved one, frustration at work, or just feeling overwhelmed by life's challenges, anger is a universal experience. It's a natural emotion, but when left unchecked, it can cause unnecessary harm. Yet, here's the good news. You don't have to live at the mercy of anger. You don't have to let it control your actions or steal your peace. There's a way to break free from the grip of anger, to rise above the heat of the moment, and regain control over how you respond to life's frustrations. This path is not about suppression or denial of your emotions. It's about mastering them. It's about transforming anger from a destructive force into something that you can understand, manage, and even use for personal growth. At the heart of this transformation is a powerful ancient philosophy called Stoicism. Stoicism teaches that while we cannot always control what happens to us, we can control how we respond. This simple truth is a key to unlocking a life of inner calm, no matter what storms rage around you. Think about it. What if the next time you felt anger rise, you had the strength to pause? What if, instead of lashing out or letting that anger simmer inside you, you could calmly choose your response? That kind of power is within your reach. It's not reserved for the monks or the philosophers from centuries past. It's for you, here, right now. Anger often feels like it happens to us. In reality, it's an emotion we allow ourselves to be taken over by. It begins as a small spark. Someone cuts in front of you in traffic, a colleague undermines you at work, or a loved one disappoints you, and before you know it, that spark grows into a fire. But fires don't start without fuel. And here's the secret. You have the power to remove that fuel. In moments of anger, it can feel like you've lost control. But Stoicism teaches that control is always yours. Anger doesn't happen to you. It's a reaction you can choose to manage. The key lies in understanding that your peace of mind is more valuable than the temporary satisfaction of an angry outburst. Stoicism doesn't tell you to ignore your feelings or pretend you're unaffected by life's challenges. Instead, it offers you tools to handle them with grace. It gives you the ability to step back, assess the situation with clarity, and decide how you want to respond. You're no longer a prisoner to your emotions. You're in charge. There's a deep strength in knowing that your peace cannot be easily shaken, that no matter what happens around you, the real power lies in how you choose to react. Stoicism gives you this strength. It empowers you to handle life's frustrations with patience and wisdom, turning moments that once triggered anger into opportunities for growth. When anger is in control, it narrows your view. It blinds you to the bigger picture and forces you to focus on the immediate wrong or injustice you feel. But once you begin to apply Stoic principles, you'll realize that most of the things that anger you aren't worth the energy. You'll begin to see that your peace, your mental clarity, is far more precious than indulging in the momentary rush of rage. Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca understood this well. They lived in times of great upheaval, facing challenges that would make even the calmest among us falter. Yet, they managed to remain composed, not because they were emotionless, but because they had mastered the art of emotional control. They saw anger for what it was, a temporary feeling that clouded judgment and robbed them of their inner peace. This doesn't mean that they never felt anger. On the contrary, they felt it deeply, but they had trained themselves to handle it differently. They didn't let it take over. And you can do the same. You can learn to notice the early signs of anger, take a step back, and choose a response that aligns with your values. One of the most empowering aspects of Stoicism is the realization that external events are beyond your control. The person who frustrates you, the unexpected mishap, the unfair situation, they are all out of your hands. What's within your control is how you respond. This shift in focus from the external to the internal gives you the ability to reclaim your peace. There's a profound sense of freedom in knowing that you are not at the mercy of others' actions or words. You are not defined by what happens to you, but by how you choose to deal with it. When you embrace this mindset, anger no longer holds power over you. You see it for what it truly is, an internal reaction that you can manage and transform. The journey to controlling your anger is not about becoming emotionless or detached from life's challenges. It's about learning to navigate those challenges with a steady hand and a clear mind. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional roller coaster that anger often brings, so you can live with greater peace, clarity, and purpose. And here's the most important part. This journey is possible for you. No matter how strong your anger has been in the past, no matter how many times it has gotten the better of you, you can change. You can take control of your emotions and start living with the calm and strength that Stoicism teaches. This isn't about perfection. You're human, and anger is part of being human. But with Stoicism, you can learn to handle anger in a way that doesn't destroy your peace. You can rise above the frustration, the resentment, the rage, and choose a response that reflects the best version of yourself. The path to mastering your anger may not always be easy, but it is always worth it. Each time you pause before reacting, each time you choose calm over chaos, you're taking a step closer to a life of greater peace and control. And with every step, you're reclaiming your power. Anger will no longer control you. You will control it. And with that, you'll discover a newfound sense of freedom, a freedom that allows you to live life with clarity, patience, and purpose. A freedom that ensures your peace of mind is never sacrificed to temporary emotions. As you embark on this journey, know that you are stepping into a long tradition of wisdom that has stood the test of time. Stoicism is not a quick fix, but a lifelong practice of becoming better, calmer, and more in control of your emotions. This is the first step toward mastering your anger and reclaiming your peace. The path ahead is transformative, and with each chapter, you'll find yourself growing stronger, more centered, and more in control of your life. Let's take this journey together. The weight of anger can be heavy, burdening the heart and clouding the mind. It strikes quickly, leaving a trail of frustration and chaos, often affecting those closest to you. There's a reason it feels so overwhelming. Anger is a force that, when unchecked, destroys the peace you work so hard to maintain. But what if you could lift that weight? What if you could keep your calm, even when everything around you seems to invite fury? Stoicism, an ancient philosophy, offers a way out, a path that not only reveals why anger is so destructive, but shows you how to free yourself from its grip. Anger pulls you away from the present moment. It latches onto past wrongs or future fears, making you lose touch with the peace that comes from living in the now. Stoicism teaches that peace lies in accepting what is happening in the present, not in clinging to frustrations or disappointments. Anger, on the other hand, thrives on resisting reality. It tells you that things should have been different, that life has wronged you in some way, and by doing so, it drags you into a battle you can't win. Instead of changing the world, anger only deepens your suffering. The Stoics understood that holding on to anger is like holding on to a burning coal, hoping to throw it at someone else, but only burning yourself in the process. Anger consumes your energy, wastes your mental strength, and leaves you exhausted, yet offers no solution. This emotional drain is one of the most dangerous aspects of anger. It robs you of the power to think clearly and respond thoughtfully. In its wake, you're left with broken relationships, damaged self-esteem, and a mind filled with regret. When anger takes control, you lose the ability to see things for what they really are. It narrows your perspective, making everything seem more threatening, more unjust than it actually is. Stoicism teaches that clarity of mind is essential for peace. The more clearly you see the world, the easier it is to maintain your composure. Anger distorts that clarity. It tricks you into believing that your emotions are justified, that your rage is righteous. But the truth is, anger blinds you to reason. It makes you react impulsively, leading to actions and words that you often regret. One of the greatest lessons Stoicism offers is the understanding that anger is often rooted in unrealistic expectations. You expect people to behave in a certain way, for events to unfold according to your plans, and when they don't, frustration builds. Anger is a signal that you are trying to control something outside your influence. The Stoics remind us that the only thing we can truly control is our reaction to what happens, not the events themselves. When you let go of unrealistic expectations, you open yourself to peace. Anger thrives on resistance. It flares up when you feel that life hasn't gone your way, when you believe that circumstances should have unfolded differently. But the Stoics teach that fighting reality only creates more pain. Acceptance, on the other hand, leads to peace. Acceptance doesn't mean passively allowing everything to happen without response. It means understanding that there are things beyond your control, and instead of resisting them, you focus on controlling how you react. This shift in mindset is key to dissolving anger before it has the chance to take root. The energy you expend in anger is wasted. Every minute spent fuming is a minute that could have been used for something productive, something fulfilling. Anger is an emotional thief. It steals your time, your focus, and your ability to enjoy life. Stoicism encourages you to reclaim that energy by redirecting it towards things that truly matter. When anger arises, instead of letting it consume you, pause and ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Most often the answer is no. Anger also isolates you from others. It builds walls, turning small misunderstandings into major conflicts. Stoicism teaches that human connections are vital for a fulfilling life, and maintaining peace in those relationships requires self-control. When you allow anger to guide your actions, you push people away. You say things you don't mean, act in ways that create distance, and soon you find yourself alone in your anger. Stoicism helps you cultivate the patience and understanding needed to keep those walls from going up in the first place. At its core, anger is often driven by a desire for control. You want the world to bend to your will, for people to act in ways that align with your values, and when they don't, frustration follows. Stoicism teaches that the only thing you truly control is yourself, your thoughts, your actions, and your responses. Everything else, from the weather to the way someone speaks to you, is beyond your grasp. Accepting this reality is liberating. It allows you to let go of anger because you stop expecting the world to be something it's not. Anger traps you in a cycle of reactivity. It feeds off itself, growing stronger the more you indulge in it. The Stoic practice of pausing before reacting helps break this cycle. When you feel anger rising, take a moment to step back and breathe. This simple act of pausing gives you the space to decide how to respond, rather than letting anger dictate your actions. It's in this pause that you reclaim your peace. One of the most dangerous aspects of anger is how it clouds your judgment. In the heat of the moment, you say things you wouldn't normally say. make decisions you wouldn't normally make. Stoicism teaches that clear thinking is essential for a life of peace. When you're angry, your mind is anything but clear. It's filled with thoughts of revenge, blame, and frustration. But by practicing emotional control, you can train yourself to stay calm, even when your initial reaction is anger. Stoicism offers a perspective that frees you from the emotional grip of anger by helping you see that most of the things we get angry about are insignificant in the grand scheme of life. The Stoics taught that life is short, and to waste any part of it in anger is to squander your time on earth. Every moment spent angry is a moment not spent in peace, in love, in joy. Once you recognize the fleeting nature of life, it becomes easier to let go of anger because you understand that your time is too precious to waste on negativity. It's easy to think of anger as something that happens to you, something external that invades your life. But Stoicism teaches that anger comes from within. It's not the event itself that makes you angry. It's how you interpret it. When you realize this, you take back control. You understand that no one can make you angry without your permission. This is one of the most empowering lessons of Stoicism. You have the power to control your emotions by controlling your thoughts. Anger can often feel justified. When someone wrongs you, it's natural to want to react. But the Stoics teach that just because anger feels justified doesn't mean it's productive. In fact, anger rarely leads to a positive outcome. Even when it feels like you're standing up for yourself, anger often makes the situation worse. Stoicism encourages you to stand up for yourself, with calm, with reason, and with control. This way, you maintain your dignity and peace without letting anger dictate your actions. The Stoics believed that anger was one of the most destructive emotions because it distances you from rational thinking. When you're angry, you're not thinking clearly. Your mind is clouded by emotion, and this leads to poor decisions. By practicing Stoic principles, you can learn to remain rational even in situations that would normally provoke anger. This clarity of thought allows you to navigate challenges with wisdom and grace. One of the key teachings of Stoicism is the idea of focusing on what is within your control. Anger arises when we try to control things that are outside of our influence, other people's actions, external events, even the opinions of others. Stoicism teaches that this is a futile effort. By focusing only on what you can control, your own thoughts and actions, you free yourself from the frustration that leads to anger. This shift in focus is liberating because it takes the pressure off trying to control the uncontrollable. Anger often comes from a place of fear, fear of being disrespected, fear of being misunderstood, fear of losing control. But Stoicism teaches that fear is an illusion. What we fear is often a projection of our own insecurities. When you understand this, anger loses its power. Instead of reacting from a place of fear, you can respond from a place of strength and confidence. This is the Stoic way of overcoming anger, by recognizing that fear and insecurity are at its root and choosing to rise above them. The Stoics understood that life is unpredictable. You can't control the actions of others or the events that unfold, but you can control how you respond. Anger is a reaction to the unpredictability of life. It's an attempt to force the world into your desired shape. But this is a losing battle. The more you try to control the uncontrollable, the more frustrated and angry you become. Stoicism teaches that peace comes from accepting life's unpredictability and focusing on what you can control, your own behavior and mindset. One of the most liberating insights of Stoicism is that anger is a choice. It may not always feel like it, but every time you get angry, you are choosing to let that emotion take control. Stoicism gives you the tools to make a different choice. Instead of reacting with anger, you can choose patience. Instead of lashing out, you can choose silence. By recognizing that anger is a choice, you take back control of your emotions and your life. Anger thrives on attachment. Attachment to outcomes, to expectations, to how things should be. When reality doesn't match your expectations, anger flares up. But the Stoics teach that attachment is the root of suffering. By practicing detachment, you free yourself from the frustrations that lead to anger. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means accepting that you cannot control everything. When you release your attachments, you also release the anger that comes from unmet expectations. Stoicism teaches that true power comes from controlling your own mind. Anger gives you the illusion of power. It makes you feel strong, justified, in control. But this is a false power. True power lies in calmness, in patience, in the ability to remain composed no matter what is happening around you. When you can control your anger, you are truly powerful, because you are no longer at the mercy of external events or other people's actions. Every time you choose to let go of anger, you strengthen your inner peace. It's not always easy. Anger can feel overwhelming, and sometimes it feels easier to give in to it. But with practice, you can train yourself to respond differently. Each time you pause before reacting, each time you choose patience over fury, you're building a foundation of peace that will serve you for the rest of your life. With every moment that you choose peace over anger, you gain a deeper understanding of your own power. The ability to control anger isn't about suppressing your emotions, but about mastering them. This mastery starts with a simple yet profound concept: the pause. It's within that pause that real change begins. Before anger takes over, before it has a chance to ignite, there's a brief space, a gap where choice exists. This space is where the Stoics found their strength. They understood that by pausing, by taking just a few moments to reflect, we can stop anger from controlling us. Anger thrives on immediacy. It pushes you to react, to lash out, to say or do something without thinking. But when you pause, you disrupt that urgency. You create room to breathe, room to consider, and in that room, anger loses its momentum. The Stoics knew that in the heat of the moment, a brief pause could prevent a lifetime of regret. When you pause, even for a few seconds, you give yourself the opportunity to choose a different path, one that leads to calm rather than chaos. In the pause, there is wisdom. It's in that moment of stillness that you can remind yourself of what truly matters. Anger is often a reaction to something that feels unfair or unjust. But when you pause, you can ask yourself whether the issue is really worth your peace of mind. The Stoics believed that most things we get angry about are insignificant in the grand scheme of life. By pausing, you give yourself the chance to put things into perspective, to see the bigger picture, and to let go of the small irritations that don't deserve your energy. Pausing also allows you to regain control of your emotions. Anger can feel overpowering, like a force that takes over your mind and body. But the moment you pause, you break that control. You remind yourself that you are not your anger, that you have the power to choose how you respond. The Stoics practiced this as a way to maintain their inner calm, no matter what was happening around them. By pausing, they refused to let anger dictate their actions. This practice of pausing doesn't just stop anger in its tracks, it also helps you develop emotional resilience. The more you practice pausing, the stronger your ability to stay calm under pressure becomes. It's like building a muscle. At first, it may feel difficult to pause when anger flares up, but with time, it becomes second nature. You start to notice that the things that used to make you angry no longer have the same power over you. You become more patient, more thoughtful, and more in control of your emotions. One of the greatest benefits of pausing is that it gives you time to reflect. When anger hits, it's easy to jump to conclusions, to assume the worst about a situation or a person. But when you pause, you give yourself the chance to ask questions. Why am I feeling this way? Is my anger justified? Is there another way to look at this situation? This reflection helps you avoid reacting impulsively and instead respond with clarity and wisdom. In moments of anger, pausing can also help you reconnect with your values. Stoicism teaches that our actions should be guided by our principles, not by fleeting emotions. When you pause, you can remind yourself of the person you want to be. Do you want to be someone who lashes out in anger, or someone who responds with patience and understanding? This pause gives you the time to align your actions with your deeper values, rather than letting anger push you into behavior you'll later regret. Another powerful aspect of pausing is that it helps you separate yourself from the immediate emotion. When anger rises, it can feel all-encompassing, as if it's the only thing that matters. But by pausing, you create a sense of distance between yourself and the emotion. You can observe your anger without being consumed by it. This practice of observation is a key Stoic technique. By observing your emotions rather than identifying with them, you can choose how to respond rather than being controlled by your feelings. Pausing also gives you the opportunity to consider the consequences of your actions. Anger often pushes us to act without thinking, but when you pause, you can take a moment to think about what might happen if you give in to that anger. Will it help the situation, or will it make things worse? Will it strengthen your relationships or damage them? The Stoics were always mindful of the long-term consequences of their actions, and pausing allows you to do the same. It gives you the space to consider whether your anger is worth the potential fallout. When you pause, you also give yourself the chance to calm your body. Anger isn't just a mental experience, it's physical too. Your heart races, your muscles tense, your breath quickens. But in that pause, you can take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, and slow your heartbeat. This physical act of calming yourself helps to reduce the intensity of your anger, making it easier to respond with calmness and clarity. Pausing can also help you avoid saying things you don't mean. In the heat of anger, it's easy to blurt out hurtful words that can damage relationships and cause lasting harm. But when you pause, you give yourself the chance to think before you speak. You can ask yourself whether what you're about to say is helpful or whether it will only escalate the situation. The Stoics believed that words have power, and that power should be used wisely. Pausing allows you to choose your words carefully, ensuring that you communicate with respect and intention. Pausing can also shift your perspective. When anger takes over, it's easy to see only your side of the story. But in that brief pause, you can take a step back and consider the other person's point of view. What might they be feeling? What are their intentions? This shift in perspective can help you respond with empathy rather than anger, turning a potential conflict into an opportunity for understanding. The practice of pausing also helps you break the habit of reactivity. Anger often becomes a pattern, a knee-jerk reaction to certain situations or triggers. But when you pause, you interrupt that pattern. You create a new habit of responding thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. This is one of the most transformative aspects of Stoicism, the ability to change your automatic responses by choosing to pause and reflect. Pausing doesn't just help you in the moment of anger, it also helps you in the long term. Each time you pause before reacting, you're training your brain to respond with calmness and clarity. Over time, this becomes your new default. The things that once made you angry no longer have the same effect, because you've developed the habit of pausing and reflecting. This is how Stoicism helps you build emotional resilience, not by eliminating anger, but by teaching you how to manage it in a way that strengthens your inner peace. Pausing also gives you the opportunity to choose a constructive response. Anger often pushes us to react in ways that are destructive, to lash out, to blame, to criticize. But when you pause, you can choose a different path. You can choose to respond in a way that is constructive, that helps resolve the situation rather than escalating it. This is one of the most powerful lessons of Stoicism, that you always have the power to choose how you respond, even in the face of anger. The act of pausing also helps you develop patience. Anger is often a result of impatience with people, with situations, with life not going the way you want it to. But when you pause, you practice patience. You learn to sit with discomfort, to accept that things aren't always going to go your way, and to respond with calmness rather than frustration. This patience is a key component of Stoic wisdom, and it's something that can be developed through the practice of pausing. Pausing also allows you to take responsibility for your own emotions. It's easy to blame others for your anger, to say that someone else made you angry or that the situation caused your frustration. But the Stoics teach that your emotions are your responsibility. No one can make you angry without your permission. When you pause, you take back control of your emotions. You acknowledge that while you can't control what happens to you, you can control how you respond. The practice of pausing also helps you develop self-awareness. Anger can often feel like a sudden, uncontrollable force, but when you pause, you begin to notice the early signs of anger, your clenched fists, your racing thoughts, your rising tension. This awareness helps you catch anger before it fully takes hold, giving you the chance to pause and choose a different response. Over time, this self-awareness becomes a powerful tool for managing your emotions. Pausing is also an act of self-compassion. When you pause, you give yourself the space to acknowledge your feelings without being overwhelmed by them. You recognize that anger is a natural emotion, but you don't have to let it control you. By pausing, you treat yourself with kindness, giving yourself the time and space to respond thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. Pausing also creates space for reflection. After the moment of anger has passed, you can look back and reflect on what happened. What triggered your anger? How did you respond? What could you have done differently? This reflection helps you learn from your experiences and improve your emotional control over time. The Stoics believed in the importance of self-reflection as a tool for personal growth, and pausing allows you to engage in this practice. One of the most important lessons of pausing is that it gives you time to choose peace. In the heat of anger, peace can feel distant, almost impossible to reach. But when you pause, you give yourself the opportunity to choose peace over conflict, calm over chaos. This choice, made in the space of a pause, is what ultimately leads to a life of greater emotional resilience and inner peace. The practice of pausing is a powerful tool for managing anger, but it requires practice. It's not always easy to pause in the heat of the moment, especially when emotions are running high. But the more you practice, the easier it becomes. Each time you pause before reacting, you strengthen your ability to remain calm and composed, even in difficult situations. Pausing also helps you cultivate gratitude. When you pause, you can take a moment to appreciate the good in the situation, even if it's hard to see at first. Maybe the person who made you angry was having a bad day. Maybe the situation that frustrated you is an opportunity for growth. By pausing and reflecting, you can shift your focus from what's wrong to what's right. And this shift in perspective can help dissolve your anger. Pausing also gives you time to breathe. When anger flares up, your breath often becomes shallow and rapid, which only increases your stress. But when you pause, you can take a deep breath, slow down, and calm your body. This simple act of breathing can help reduce the intensity of your anger and bring you back to a state of calm. In the end, the practice of pausing is about reclaiming your power. Anger often feels like a force beyond your control, but the moment you pause, you take back that control. You remind yourself that you are not a victim of your emotions. You are the master of them. This is the essence of Stoic wisdom, the understanding that while you cannot control what happens to you, you can always control how you respond. With each pause, you build a stronger foundation of peace and resilience. You learn to navigate life's challenges with greater wisdom and calmness, and you free yourself from the destructive power of anger. The practice of pausing is a simple yet profound tool for emotional mastery, and with time and practice, it can transform the way you experience and respond to the world. Each pause strengthens your ability to face anger with clarity and control, but the journey to emotional mastery doesn't stop there. Pausing is just the first step. True mastery of your emotions requires consistent practice and the kind of discipline that Stoicism teaches so well. Discipline is the foundation upon which emotional control is built, and it is what enables you to remain calm, no matter how intense the situation becomes. It is through discipline that you can train your mind to respond, rather than react, to the challenges life throws your way. Emotional control is not something that happens overnight. It's a practice, a daily commitment to understanding yourself and the emotions that arise within you. Stoicism shows that discipline is not just about suppressing emotions, but about managing them with wisdom. With discipline, you learn to anticipate your emotional triggers and develop strategies to deal with them before they overwhelm you. Stoic discipline begins with self-awareness. To control your emotions, you first need to know what triggers them. The Stoics believed that understanding the root of your emotions is crucial. Without awareness, you are at the mercy of your feelings. But with awareness, you gain the power to choose how you respond. Discipline helps you cultivate this awareness by encouraging daily reflection on your thoughts, actions, and emotions. Through consistent discipline, you can train your mind to remain calm in situations that would normally trigger strong emotional reactions. The Stoics were masters at this. They practiced emotional discipline not by avoiding challenges, but by facing them head-on, observing their emotional responses, and making a conscious choice to stay grounded. This level of control requires commitment and patience, but with time, it becomes second nature. One of the key elements of Stoic discipline is the understanding that emotions are temporary. No matter how intense a feeling may be, it will eventually pass. This awareness allows you to remain calm, knowing that the emotion is fleeting and that your true self is not defined by it. By practicing this kind of emotional detachment, you gain the ability to observe your emotions without being consumed by them. Discipline also teaches you to stay focused on what is within your control. So often, emotional turmoil arises from trying to control things that are beyond your reach. Whether it's other people's behavior, external events, or the outcomes of certain situations, the Stoics remind us that these things are not ours to control. Emotional discipline helps you redirect your energy toward what you can influence: your thoughts, your actions, and your reactions. Stoic discipline involves the cultivation of patience. In moments of emotional intensity, patience allows you to slow down and assess the situation before reacting. It gives you the space to think critically about your emotions and decide how to respond in a way that aligns with your values. Patience is a form of discipline that requires practice, but the more you develop it, the easier it becomes to stay calm under pressure. Discipline also helps you maintain emotional consistency. Without discipline, emotions can fluctuate wildly from one moment to the next, leaving you feeling unbalanced and out of control. But through the disciplined practice of self-awareness and reflection, you learn to manage these fluctuations and maintain a steady emotional state, even in difficult circumstances. This consistency is one of the hallmarks of Stoic emotional control. Another important aspect of Stoic discipline is the ability to let go of emotional attachments. Emotions like anger, fear, and jealousy often arise from being too attached to certain outcomes or expectations. When things don't go as planned, these attachments create emotional turmoil. But through disciplined reflection, you learn to release these attachments and accept things as they are, rather than as you wish them to be. This detachment is a powerful tool for emotional control. Emotional control through discipline also requires a commitment to truth. The Stoics believed that much of our emotional suffering comes from false perceptions, misunderstandings about ourselves, others, or the world around us. By practicing the discipline of truth, you challenge these false perceptions and replace them with a more accurate understanding of reality. This clarity helps to reduce emotional turbulence and keeps you grounded in the face of adversity. Discipline also involves the practice of emotional resilience. Life is full of challenges, and emotional resilience is the ability to bounce back from difficulties without being overwhelmed by negative emotions. Stoic discipline trains you to develop this resilience by encouraging you to view challenges as opportunities for growth. Instead of avoiding difficult emotions, you confront them, learn from them, and emerge stronger on the other side. One of the most powerful aspects of Stoic discipline is its ability to transform your emotional responses over time. With consistent practice, you begin to notice that the things that once triggered strong emotional reactions no longer have the same effect. You become less reactive, more thoughtful, and more in control of your emotions. This transformation is gradual, but it is one of the most rewarding aspects of Stoic practice. Discipline also teaches you to prioritize long-term emotional stability over short-term emotional satisfaction. In moments of emotional intensity, it's tempting to react in ways that provide immediate relief, whether it's venting your anger or avoiding a difficult situation. But Stoicism reminds you that these short-term reactions often lead to long-term consequences. Through discipline, you learn to prioritize your long-term peace of mind over the fleeting satisfaction of emotional release. Stoic discipline encourages daily practices that strengthen your emotional control. Whether it's journaling, meditation, or self-reflection, these practices help you build the mental and emotional strength needed to remain calm in difficult situations. Over time, these small daily practices accumulate, leading to greater emotional resilience and self-mastery. One of the key principles of Stoic discipline is the understanding that emotions are not inherently good or bad. It's how you respond to them that matters. Anger, fear, sadness. These emotions are natural and inevitable. The goal of Stoicism is not to eliminate these emotions, but to manage them in a way that supports your overall well-being. Through discipline, you learn to accept your emotions without letting them control you. Discipline also helps you develop emotional flexibility. Life is unpredictable, and emotional flexibility allows you to adapt to changing circumstances without becoming overwhelmed. Stoicism teaches that emotional control is not about rigidly suppressing your feelings, but about being able to navigate them with grace. This flexibility comes from the disciplined practice of self-awareness, reflection, and patience. Stoic discipline involves setting clear emotional boundaries. Emotions like anger and frustration often arise when your boundaries are crossed, whether by others or by external events. Through disciplined self-reflection, you can identify where your emotional boundaries lie and learn to protect them. This practice helps you maintain emotional control by preventing unnecessary emotional reactions to situations that overstep your limits. Emotional discipline also involves practicing self-compassion. It's easy to be hard on yourself when you struggle with emotional control, but Stoicism teaches that self-compassion is essential for growth. Through discipline, you learn to treat yourself with kindness and understanding, recognizing that emotional control is a skill that takes time to develop. This self-compassion helps to reduce the frustration and guilt that often accompany emotional struggles. Another key aspect of Stoic discipline is the practice of emotional balance. Stoicism teaches that emotions should be experienced in moderation, neither suppressing them completely nor allowing them to dominate your actions. Through disciplined reflection, you learn to strike this balance, allowing yourself to feel emotions without being overwhelmed by them. This emotional balance is the key to maintaining inner peace in the face of adversity. Discipline also teaches you to take responsibility for your emotional responses. It's easy to blame external circumstances or other people for your emotions, but Stoicism reminds you that your emotions are ultimately your responsibility. Through disciplined self-reflection, you learn to take ownership of your emotions and to manage them in a way that aligns with your values. Stoic discipline also involves the practice of emotional detachment. This doesn't mean becoming emotionally cold or distant. It means learning to observe your emotions without being controlled by them. Through disciplined practice, you can develop the ability to step back from your emotions, view them objectively, and choose how to respond. This detachment is a powerful tool for maintaining emotional control in difficult situations. Another important aspect of Stoic discipline is the practice of emotional gratitude. Emotions like anger and frustration often arise from a focus on what is lacking in your life. But through disciplined reflection, you can cultivate gratitude for what you have, shifting your focus away from what's missing and toward what's present. This practice of emotional gratitude helps to reduce negative emotions and promote a sense of peace and contentment. Discipline also helps you develop emotional foresight. By practicing self-awareness and reflection, you learn to anticipate how certain situations might trigger emotional reactions. This foresight allows you to prepare for these situations in advance, giving you the tools to manage your emotions before they become overwhelming. This proactive approach to emotional control is one of the key benefits of Stoic discipline. Stoic discipline also involves practicing emotional acceptance. Many negative emotions arise from resisting reality, wanting things to be different than they are. But Stoicism teaches that peace comes from accepting things as they are, rather than as you wish them to be. Through disciplined reflection, you learn to accept your emotions without judgment, allowing them to pass without holding on to them. Another key principle of Stoic discipline is the practice of emotional responsibility. Stoicism teaches that you are responsible for your own emotions. No one can make you feel a certain way without your consent. Through disciplined self-reflection, you learn to take responsibility for your emotional responses, rather than blaming others or external circumstances for how you feel. Discipline also helps you develop emotional clarity. Emotions can often feel confusing and overwhelming, but through disciplined reflection, you can gain clarity about what you're feeling and why. This clarity helps you to manage your emotions more effectively, reducing the likelihood of being overwhelmed by them. Stoic discipline also involves practicing emotional resilience in the face of setbacks. Life is full of challenges, and emotional resilience is the ability to bounce back from difficulties without being overwhelmed by negative emotions. Through disciplined self-reflection and practice, you can develop this resilience, allowing you to navigate life's challenges with greater emotional control and inner strength. Another important aspect of Stoic discipline is the practice of emotional humility. Stoicism teaches that no one is immune to emotional struggles. We all experience anger, frustration, and sadness at times. Through disciplined reflection, you learn to accept your emotional struggles without judgment, recognizing that emotional control is a lifelong practice. Discipline also helps you develop emotional consistency. Without discipline, emotions can fluctuate wildly from one moment to the next, leaving you feeling unbalanced and out of control. But through the disciplined practice of self-awareness and reflection, you learn to manage these fluctuations and maintain a steady emotional state, even in difficult circumstances. Stoic discipline also involves practicing emotional forgiveness. Holding on to anger and resentment can lead to long-term emotional pain, but through disciplined reflection, you can learn to let go of these negative emotions and practice forgiveness, both for yourself and for others. Another key principle of Stoic discipline is the practice of emotional growth. Stoicism teaches that emotional challenges are opportunities for growth and self-improvement. Through disciplined self-reflection, you can learn from your emotional struggles and use them as a catalyst for personal growth and emotional development. Discipline also helps you develop emotional mindfulness. Stoicism teaches that being present in the moment is essential for emotional control. Through disciplined practice, you can learn to stay mindful of your emotions, allowing yourself to experience them fully without being overwhelmed by them. Stoic discipline also involves practicing emotional detachment from outcomes. Many negative emotions arise from being too attached to specific outcomes or expectations. But through disciplined reflection, you can learn to let go of these attachments and focus on the present moment, reducing emotional stress and promoting inner peace. Another key aspect of Stoic discipline is the practice of emotional integrity. Stoicism teaches that your actions should be guided by your values, not by fleeting emotions. Through disciplined reflection, you can learn to align your emotional responses with your core values, ensuring that you act with integrity even in difficult situations. Discipline also helps you develop emotional flexibility. Life is unpredictable, and emotional flexibility allows you to adapt to changing circumstances without becoming overwhelmed. Stoicism teaches that emotional control is not about rigidly suppressing your feelings, but about being able to navigate them with grace. Stoic discipline also involves practicing emotional balance. Emotions should be experienced in moderation, neither suppressing them completely nor allowing them to dominate your actions. Through disciplined reflection, you learn to strike this balance, allowing yourself to feel emotions without being overwhelmed by them. Another important aspect of Stoic discipline is the practice of emotional accountability. Stoicism teaches that you are responsible for your own emotions. No one can make you feel a certain way without your consent. Through disciplined self-reflection, you learn to take responsibility for your emotional responses rather than blaming others. Discipline also helps you develop emotional wisdom. Stoicism teaches that emotions are a natural part of life, but it's how you respond to them that defines your character. Through disciplined self-reflection and practice, you can develop emotional wisdom, allowing you to navigate life's challenges with greater emotional control and inner strength. Emotional wisdom and discipline allow you to navigate life with clarity and calmness. But even with this control, there's a deeper challenge that can trigger anger, the habit of taking things personally. It's easy to feel attacked when someone says something critical or when a situation doesn't go as planned. When you internalize these moments, you give them the power to disrupt your peace. This tendency to take things personally fuels anger, yet the Stoics knew that it doesn't have to be this way. By learning to detach from the opinions and actions of others, you can protect your peace and stay grounded no matter what comes your way. One of the greatest obstacles to maintaining peace is the belief that everything is a reflection of you. Whether it's someone's negative comment, a perceived slight, or a criticism, taking these things personally gives them undue importance. Stoicism teaches that what others say or do is a reflection of them, not you. The moment you accept this truth, you release yourself from the emotional weight of other people's opinions. When you take things personally, you allow external events to dictate your emotional state. You may feel hurt or defensive, but Stoicism reminds you that these reactions are based on a misunderstanding, that what others think or say has power over you. The Stoics teach that true peace comes from within, and that no external event, including someone else's judgment, can take that peace away unless you let it. Another key lesson from Stoicism is the idea that we often misinterpret situations. You might believe someone is deliberately trying to offend you, but in reality, their actions may have nothing to do with you at all. The Stoics urge you to question your initial interpretations before reacting. When you take a moment to reflect, you'll often realize that the situation is not as personal as it first seemed. This practice prevents unnecessary anger from taking root. The Stoics believed that everyone acts according to their own nature and experiences. When someone says or does something that triggers anger in you, it's a reflection of their character, not yours. By recognizing this, you can begin to detach from the need to take their words or actions personally. You're no longer bound by the emotional reactions that arise from their behavior, because you understand that their actions are driven by their own internal struggles. Detachment from others' opinions doesn't mean indifference. It means maintaining emotional boundaries and not allowing the views of others to define your sense of self-worth. The Stoics believed that your value is intrinsic and does not depend on external validation. When you internalize this belief, you become immune to the sting of criticism. Your emotional state remains stable, regardless of what others may think or say. Taking things personally often stems from a desire for approval. You want others to see you in a certain light, and when they don't, it hurts. But the Stoics teach that seeking approval from others is a path to disappointment. People's opinions are unpredictable, and trying to please everyone is impossible. When you release the need for external validation, you free yourself from the cycle of anger and frustration that comes from taking others' opinions too seriously. Anger flourishes when you feel disrespected or misunderstood. But Stoicism teaches that respect comes from within. When you respect yourself, external opinions lose their power to hurt you. You no longer rely on others to validate your worth, and this inner respect creates a shield against anger. You become more resilient, less reactive, and more focused on maintaining your peace. The practice of not taking things personally also involves accepting that you cannot control how others perceive you. Their opinions are shaped by their own experiences, biases, and emotions. By recognizing that you are not responsible for how others see you, you detach from the need to control their judgments. This acceptance is liberating. It allows you to focus on what truly matters, your own actions and responses. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of focusing on what is within your control. Other people's thoughts, opinions, and behaviors are beyond your influence. By concentrating on what you can control, your own reactions and mindset, you free yourself from the frustration that comes with trying to change others. This shift in focus helps to reduce anger and promotes inner peace. Taking things personally often leads to assumptions. You might assume that someone's actions were meant to harm or belittle you, but Stoicism teaches that assumptions are often misleading. When you assume the worst, you set yourself up for anger and disappointment. Instead, the Stoics advise taking a step back and considering the situation from a neutral perspective. By doing so, you allow yourself to respond with clarity rather than anger. One of the most powerful lessons of Stoicism is the understanding that other people's opinions are simply that, opinions. They are not facts. When you take someone's criticism or judgment personally, you're accepting their opinion as truth. But the Stoics teach that truth comes from within, not from external sources. By distinguishing between opinion and fact, you can detach from the need to internalize others' views and maintain your emotional balance. The Stoics also remind us that everyone sees the world through their own lens. People project their fears, insecurities, and desires onto others. When someone criticizes or offends you, it's often a reflection of their own struggles, not a true reflection of you. By understanding this, you can detach from their words and actions, recognizing that they are not about you. This shift in perspective helps to dissolve anger before it has a chance to take hold. Taking things personally often leads to conflict. You may feel the need to defend yourself or prove the other person wrong. But Stoicism teaches that peace is more important than being right. When you detach from the need to defend your ego, you open the door to more constructive and peaceful interactions. You no longer feel the urge to engage in arguments that only fuel anger and resentment. Another aspect of taking things personally is the tendency to dwell on past interactions. You might replay a hurtful comment or situation in your mind, allowing it to fester and grow into anger. But Stoicism teaches that the past is beyond your control. By letting go of past grievances and focusing on the present moment, you free yourself from the anger that comes from holding on to old wounds. Stoicism encourages you to approach every interaction with empathy. When someone says or does something that could provoke anger, try to understand where they are coming from. What pain, fear, or frustration might they be experiencing? This empathy helps you detach from taking their actions personally, as you begin to see their behavior as a reflection of their own struggles rather than a direct attack on you. Taking things personally often leads to self-doubt. You may question your worth or abilities based on someone else's opinion. But Stoicism teaches that self-worth is not dependent on external validation. Your value comes from your character, your actions, and how you live according to your principles. When you embrace this inner sense of worth, the opinions of others lose their ability to shake your confidence or provoke anger. The Stoics believed that by focusing on your own character and actions, you can maintain peace regardless of external circumstances. When you take things personally, you allow external events to dictate your inner state. But by practicing Stoic detachment, you keep your focus on what truly matters, how you live your life and how you respond to the world around you. This focus on self-discipline and integrity helps to reduce anger and promote emotional stability. One of the greatest freedoms that Stoicism offers is the ability to let go of the need for approval. When you stop taking others' opinions personally, you free yourself from the emotional burden of constantly seeking validation. This freedom allows you to live authentically, guided by your own values and principles, rather than by the shifting opinions of others. Taking things personally often leads to a cycle of negative thinking. You may dwell on perceived slights or criticisms, allowing them to fuel anger and resentment. But Stoicism teaches that negative thoughts are not facts, they are interpretations. By questioning these interpretations and reframing your perspective, you can break the cycle of negativity and prevent anger from taking hold. The Stoics also teach that taking things personally often stems from a fear of rejection. You may fear that if someone doesn't approve of you or your actions, you are unworthy. But Stoicism reminds you that your worth is not dependent on the opinions of others. Rejection is a natural part of life, and it does not diminish your value. By accepting this truth, you can detach from the fear of rejection and maintain your peace. Another key aspect of Stoicism is the practice of self-reflection. When you take things personally, it's important to reflect on why you are reacting in this way. What insecurities or fears are being triggered? By exploring these underlying emotions, you can gain insight into your own vulnerabilities and begin to address them. This self-awareness helps you detach from the need to take things personally and reduces the likelihood of anger taking over. Stoicism also encourages you to recognize that people are often acting out of their own pain. When someone lashes out or criticizes you, it's often a reflection of their own inner turmoil. By understanding this, you can approach the situation with compassion rather than anger. You detach from the need to take their actions personally and instead focus on maintaining your own peace and emotional well-being. Taking things personally often leads to defensiveness. You may feel the need to justify your actions or prove yourself to others. But Stoicism teaches that you don't need to defend yourself against every criticism or judgment. Your actions speak for themselves, and true confidence comes from knowing that you are living according to your principles. This inner confidence allows you to let go of the need to defend yourself and prevents anger from arising. The Stoics also believed that taking things personally is a sign of attachment to the ego. When you take offense at someone's words or actions, it's often because your ego feels threatened. But Stoicism teaches that the ego is not who you truly are. By detaching from the ego, you free yourself from the need to protect it and the anger that comes with it. You become more focused on living with integrity and less concerned with how others perceive you. Another important lesson from Stoicism is the idea that taking things personally is a choice. You may not be able to control what others say or do, but you can control how you interpret and respond to their actions. When you choose not to take things personally, you reclaim your power. You no longer allow external events to dictate your emotional state, and you remain in control of your own peace. Stoicism also teaches that taking things personally often leads to unnecessary suffering. When you internalize the words or actions of others, you create emotional pain for yourself. But by detaching from these external influences, you free yourself from this self-inflicted suffering. You begin to see that your peace of mind is far more valuable than engaging in emotional battles over things that ultimately don't matter. The practice of not taking things personally also helps you develop emotional resilience. When you detach from the opinions of others, you become less reactive and more grounded. You no longer feel the need to respond to every criticism or slight, and this emotional resilience allows you to navigate life's challenges with greater ease and composure. Another important aspect of Stoicism is the recognition that anger often arises from a sense of entitlement, the belief that others should treat you a certain way, or that life should go according to your plans. But Stoicism teaches that these expectations are unrealistic. People will act according to their own nature, and life will unfold as it will. By letting go of these expectations, you free yourself from the anger that comes from unmet desires. Taking things personally also leads to a focus on the negative. When you internalize criticism or offense, you dwell on the negative aspects of a situation rather than focusing on what is positive. Stoicism teaches that by shifting your focus to what is within your control and what is good in your life, you can cultivate a more positive and peaceful mindset. The Stoics also remind us that everyone is on their own journey. People's opinions, actions, and judgments are shaped by their unique experiences and struggles. When you take things personally, you are assuming that their actions are about you, but in reality, they are often a reflection of their own challenges. By recognizing this, you can detach from the need to internalize their behavior and maintain your peace. Another important lesson from Stoicism is the practice of acceptance. When you take things personally, you are resisting the reality of the situation, wanting others to behave in a way that aligns with your desires. But Stoicism teaches that acceptance is the key to peace. By accepting that you cannot control others or how they perceive you, you free yourself from the anger that comes from trying to change things that are beyond your control. Taking things personally also limits your ability to grow. When you react with anger or defensiveness to criticism, you miss the opportunity to learn from the situation. Stoicism teaches that every challenge, including criticism, is an opportunity for growth. By detaching from the need to protect your ego, you open yourself up to the possibility of learning and improving rather than reacting with anger. The Stoics believed that emotional control comes from self-mastery. When you stop taking things personally, you are practicing self-mastery by choosing not to let external events dictate your emotional state. This practice helps you develop greater inner strength and emotional stability, allowing you to navigate life's challenges with grace and composure. Finally, Stoicism teaches that peace comes from within. When you stop taking things personally, you are no longer at the mercy of external events. You are grounded in your own sense of self-worth, guided by your own principles, and focused on what is within your control. This inner peace allows you to remain calm in the face of adversity, free from the anger that comes from taking things too personally. Once you've mastered the art of not taking things personally, the grip that anger once had on you begins to weaken. But anger itself doesn't have to be your enemy. Rather than viewing it solely as a destructive force, Stoicism offers a perspective that can transform anger into a tool for personal growth. Anger, like any emotion, carries a message, something beneath the surface that can guide you toward deeper understanding and self-improvement. When approached with wisdom, anger becomes a doorway to self-reflection and ultimately strength. In Stoicism, emotions are not seen as something to be ignored or suppressed. They are opportunities for learning. When anger arises, it signals that something within you needs attention. Instead of reacting impulsively, you can use this moment to ask yourself what the anger is truly about. Is it frustration with yourself, a situation, or someone else? In asking these questions, you start to uncover areas of growth that you might have overlooked. Anger often points to underlying issues, fears, unmet expectations, or personal values that have been challenged. These are the real sources of your frustration. When you approach anger as a teacher rather than an enemy, you open yourself up to personal growth. You begin to see that anger is a symptom of something deeper, and by addressing the root cause, you not only calm the anger, but also grow stronger in the process. The Stoics believed that every emotion, including anger, is a reflection of our perceptions. Anger doesn't arise from events themselves, but from how we interpret those events. By examining the thoughts that fuel your anger, you can challenge and change those perceptions. This self-inquiry leads to growth because you start to identify patterns in your thinking that may no longer serve you. With awareness comes the power to change. When you shift your focus from the external situation to your internal response, you reclaim your power. Anger often arises from feeling out of control, but when you realize that your reaction is the only thing you truly control, you gain a sense of empowerment. This realization turns anger into a tool for self-mastery. Instead of being swept away by the emotion, you learn to use it as fuel for positive change. Anger can also reveal areas where you need to set stronger boundaries. If you find yourself frequently getting angry in certain situations, it may be a sign that your boundaries are being crossed. Stoicism encourages you to reflect on these patterns and use them as an opportunity to strengthen your sense of self-respect. By recognizing where your boundaries are weak, you can take steps to reinforce them, transforming anger into a catalyst for personal empowerment. The Stoics believed that anger arises when there is a gap between our expectations and reality. By using anger as a tool for growth, you can start to examine those expectations. Are they realistic? Are they serving you? This reflection helps you adjust your expectations in a way that aligns with the reality of the world around you, reducing the likelihood of future frustration. In doing so, you not only calm your anger, but also grow in wisdom. Anger can also be a powerful motivator for change. When something deeply frustrates or angers you, it often indicates that a change needs to be made. Stoicism teaches that anger doesn't have to lead to destructive actions. Instead, it can inspire constructive solutions. When approached with mindfulness, anger can be the driving force behind meaningful change in your life, pushing you to take action where you once felt powerless. By learning to channel your anger into productive actions, you cultivate emotional resilience. Anger is often a response to challenges or obstacles, and by using it as fuel for growth, you become more adaptable. Instead of letting anger break you down, you learn to see it as an opportunity to rise up stronger, more focused, and more determined to overcome the obstacles in your path. One of the most valuable lessons that anger can teach you is patience. When anger arises, it's often because you want something to change immediately. But Stoicism teaches that growth is a gradual process, and real change takes time. By embracing patience in moments of anger, you learn to navigate life's challenges with grace and perseverance. In this way, anger becomes a reminder to stay committed to your growth, even when progress feels slow. Stoicism teaches that the way you respond to anger shapes your character. Every moment of anger is an opportunity to choose how you want to show up in the world. Will you allow the anger to control you, or will you use it as a chance to demonstrate emotional strength? By viewing anger as an opportunity for self-improvement, you develop the kind of inner strength that defines a Stoic approach to life. Turning anger into a tool for growth also involves practicing self-compassion. Anger often arises when we feel we've fallen short of our own standards or expectations. Instead of using anger as a way to punish yourself, you can use it as an opportunity to practice forgiveness and understanding. This doesn't mean excusing mistakes, but rather recognizing them as part of the growth process. By treating yourself with kindness in moments of anger, you create space for self-improvement without the burden of guilt. When you use anger as a tool for growth, you begin to see challenges as opportunities rather than obstacles. Instead of viewing difficulties with frustration, you approach them with curiosity. What can this challenge teach me? How can I grow from this experience? This mindset shift turns anger into a stepping stone for personal development rather than a roadblock. Stoicism encourages the practice of reframing, seeing a situation from a different perspective. When anger arises, you can ask yourself how this situation might be an opportunity in disguise. Reframing allows you to turn anger into a moment of learning, helping you to grow in ways you may not have considered before. This shift in perspective not only reduces anger, but also promotes a more optimistic and resilient outlook on life. Anger can also teach you about your triggers, those specific situations or behaviors that tend to set you off. By paying attention to your triggers, you can gain valuable insight into your emotional landscape. This awareness helps you take control of your emotions before they escalate, transforming anger into a tool for emotional intelligence and self-awareness. Using anger as a tool for growth requires a commitment to self-discipline. When anger arises, it's easy to react impulsively, but Stoicism teaches that real strength comes from restraint. By choosing to pause and reflect before reacting, you turn anger into a practice of self-control. This discipline not only reduces the negative impact of anger, but also strengthens your ability to remain calm in future challenges. When you approach anger with a growth mindset, you shift from a place of resistance to a place of acceptance. Instead of resisting the emotion or feeling ashamed of it, you accept it as part of the human experience. This acceptance allows you to work with the emotion rather than against it, turning anger into a powerful tool for personal evolution. The Stoics believed that all emotions, including anger, are part of the natural human experience. By accepting this, you free yourself from the pressure to eliminate anger altogether. Instead, you focus on transforming it into something useful. This perspective helps you embrace anger as a normal part of life, allowing you to channel it into personal growth rather than letting it consume you. Anger can also help you clarify your values. When you feel strongly about something, it's often because it touches on a core value. By examining your anger, you can gain a deeper understanding of what truly matters to you. This clarity helps you align your actions with your values, turning anger into a guide for living a more authentic and purpose-driven life. When anger is used as a tool for growth, it becomes a source of strength. Instead of feeling weakened by the emotion, you learn to harness it for positive change. This strength doesn't come from suppressing the anger, but from understanding it and using it to propel you forward. Over time, this process builds emotional resilience, allowing you to face life's challenges with greater confidence and inner fortitude. Anger often carries a sense of urgency, an intense desire for things to change. But Stoicism teaches that change doesn't happen overnight. By using anger as a tool for growth, you learn the value of patience and persistence. You understand that real, lasting change requires time and effort, and you're willing to stay the course, even when the results aren't immediate. This patience turns anger into a force for long-term growth. Another way to transform anger into growth is through the practice of gratitude. When anger arises, it's often because we're focused on what's lacking or what's gone wrong. But Stoicism encourages you to shift your focus to what's going well. By practicing gratitude in moments of anger, you balance the negative emotion with positive awareness, turning frustration into a more constructive and balanced perspective. Anger can also serve as a reminder to practice humility. When you feel angry, it's often because your ego has been challenged in some way. Stoicism teaches that by practicing humility, you can let go of the need to prove yourself right or superior. This humility allows you to grow from the experience, recognizing that everyone has flaws and that mistakes are part of the learning process. Turning anger into a tool for growth also involves forgiveness. When someone wrongs you and anger arises, it's an opportunity to practice forgiveness, both for yourself and for others. By letting go of resentment, you free yourself from the emotional weight of anger and create space for healing and personal growth. The Stoics believed that true strength comes from within. By using anger as a tool for growth, you develop inner strength that is not dependent on external circumstances. This strength allows you to remain grounded and resilient, even in the face of adversity. Over time, this inner strength becomes your greatest asset, helping you navigate life with confidence and peace. When you use anger as a tool for growth, you also develop greater empathy. As you reflect on your own anger and the underlying emotions driving it, you become more attuned to the emotions of others. This empathy helps you respond to others with greater understanding and compassion, turning anger into an opportunity to build stronger, more meaningful connections. Anger can also inspire you to take responsibility for your actions. When you feel angry, it's easy to blame others or external circumstances. But Stoicism teaches that true growth comes from taking ownership of your emotions and your responses. By using anger as a tool for self-reflection, you learn to take responsibility for your part in the situation, empowering you to make positive changes moving forward. The Stoics believed that growth comes from facing challenges head-on. When anger arises, it's often because you're being confronted with a challenge that feels overwhelming. But by using anger as a tool for growth, you learn to approach these challenges with courage and determination. Instead of backing down, you rise to the occasion, using the emotion as fuel to push through obstacles and emerge stronger on the other side. Anger can also help you develop resilience in the face of uncertainty. Life is unpredictable, and anger often arises when things don't go as planned. But Stoicism teaches that by accepting uncertainty and using it as a catalyst for growth, you become more adaptable. This adaptability allows you to navigate life's ups and downs with greater ease, turning anger into a tool for emotional flexibility and resilience. Another key aspect of turning anger into growth is the practice of self-awareness. When anger arises, it's an opportunity to look inward and understand your emotional landscape. What are the thoughts, beliefs, or triggers that are fueling the anger? By gaining insight into these patterns, you become more self-aware, which is the foundation for personal growth. Anger can also teach you about the power of choice. When you feel angry, you always have a choice in how you respond. You can choose to react impulsively, or you can choose to use the anger as a tool for growth. This power of choice is one of the most empowering aspects of Stoicism. By recognizing that you always have the ability to choose your response, you take control of your emotions and your life. The Stoics believed that anger can be a teacher if you're willing to listen. Every time anger arises, it's an opportunity to learn something about yourself, your values, and your emotional triggers. By approaching anger with curiosity rather than resistance, you turn it into a source of wisdom. Over time, this wisdom helps you navigate life's challenges with greater understanding and emotional maturity. Another way to turn anger into growth is by practicing mindfulness. When anger arises, mindfulness allows you to observe the emotion without being consumed by it. This observation creates space for reflection and growth, helping you transform anger into a tool for self-awareness and personal development. When you use anger as a tool for growth, you also develop greater emotional balance. Instead of being overwhelmed by the intensity of the emotion, you learn to manage it in a way that supports your overall well-being. This balance allows you to experience your emotions fully without letting them control your actions, creating a sense of inner peace and emotional stability. Turning anger into a tool for growth also involves practicing emotional flexibility. Life is full of unexpected twists and turns, and anger often arises when things don't go as planned. But by using anger as a tool for growth, you develop the flexibility to adapt to changing circumstances with grace and resilience. This adaptability helps you navigate life's challenges with a sense of calm and control. Anger can also inspire you to take action. When something frustrates you, it often signals that a change is needed. By using anger as a tool for growth, you learn to channel that frustration into constructive action. Whether it's setting stronger boundaries, pursuing a new goal, or addressing an issue that's been bothering you, anger can serve as a motivator for positive change. The Stoics believed that true growth comes from facing discomfort. Anger is often uncomfortable, but by using it as a tool for growth, you learn to embrace that discomfort and use it as a catalyst for personal development. This willingness to face discomfort head-on helps you grow stronger, more resilient, and more confident in your ability to navigate life's challenges. Finally, when you turn anger into a tool for growth, you develop greater emotional wisdom. You begin to see anger not as a problem to be solved, but as an opportunity for self-reflection and growth. This wisdom allows you to navigate life with greater clarity and emotional maturity, turning every moment of anger into a stepping stone for personal evolution. Emotional wisdom turns anger into growth, but there's a deeper layer of control the Stoics mastered: silence. When emotions flare, when words can't be taken back, silence becomes a profound tool for maintaining peace. Stoics understood that not every battle requires engagement, not every moment of anger deserves a response. By choosing silence, they preserved their energy, protected their peace, and held on to their emotional strength. In a world that often values loud reactions, Stoicism teaches that silence is a powerful act of control and wisdom. When anger rises, the immediate urge is to speak out, to defend, to argue. But in heated situations, words can escalate conflict. Silence, on the other hand, diffuses tension. It gives you the space to think clearly and avoid saying things that could fuel the fire. By walking away from anger with silence, you give yourself the opportunity to reflect before responding. This pause helps you to regain control over your emotions and act from a place of reason rather than impulse. Silence is not about weakness or avoidance. It's a deliberate choice to preserve your inner peace. When you choose silence, you send a message, not only to others but to yourself, that your calm is more valuable than the fleeting satisfaction of an angry outburst. This decision to stay quiet in moments of conflict shows tremendous strength. It takes courage to walk away from anger and remain centered when everything around you is pulling you into the storm. In moments of anger, silence allows you to maintain control over the narrative. Once words are spoken, they cannot be taken back. But silence leaves room for reflection and understanding. It prevents misunderstandings from deepening and keeps the situation from escalating further. The Stoics knew that in heated situations, it's often better to say nothing than to say something you'll later regret. Silence holds power because it creates space for clarity. Silence also offers protection. When you choose not to engage with anger, you shield yourself from its destructive effects. Words spoken in anger can damage relationships, harm reputations, and create lasting regret. But by walking away, you protect both yourself and those around you from unnecessary conflict. The Stoics understood that silence is a shield, one that protects your peace and allows you to navigate difficult situations with dignity. Another reason Stoics valued silence in the face of anger is that it allows for observation. When you're silent, you can listen more deeply to both the situation and your own emotions. You gain a clearer understanding of what's really happening beyond the initial flare of anger. Silence helps you see the bigger picture, allowing you to assess whether the situation truly requires a response. Often, you'll find that by remaining silent, you've avoided unnecessary conflict altogether. Silence also demonstrates self-control. Anger can make you feel like you're losing control, but by choosing silence, you reclaim that power. The act of staying quiet in the heat of the moment is a powerful display of discipline. It shows that you are not ruled by your emotions, but can rise above them. This control not only preserves your peace, but also earns you respect from others. People admire those who can remain calm under pressure. The Stoics believed that silence allows you to conserve your energy. Anger is draining. It takes up mental and emotional resources that could be better spent elsewhere. When you choose not to engage with anger, you save that energy for more constructive purposes. This conservation of energy allows you to stay focused on what truly matters, rather than getting caught up in the drama of the moment. Walking away from anger with silence also helps you avoid making the situation worse. Anger can cloud judgment, leading to rash decisions and words spoken in haste. But silence gives you time to cool down and think clearly. By taking a step back, you prevent the situation from escalating and give yourself the space to respond thoughtfully, if a response is even necessary. Another powerful aspect of silence is that it allows you to maintain your integrity. In moments of anger, it's easy to say things that go against your values or to act in ways that you later regret. But by choosing silence, you ensure that your actions align with your principles. Silence gives you the time to reflect on whether your response is in line with the person you want to be. Silence is also a form of emotional protection. Anger often invites others to react in kind, creating a cycle of escalating emotions. But when you remain silent, you stop that cycle before it starts. You protect yourself from getting dragged into emotional chaos and maintain a sense of calm and control, no matter how heated the situation becomes. The power of silence lies in its ability to de-escalate. When someone is angry and expects a reaction, your silence can disarm them. It takes the fuel out of their fire because they have nothing to push against. This doesn't mean you're passive. It means you're choosing not to feed the anger. The Stoics understood that by staying quiet, you can often diffuse a situation without needing to say a word. Choosing silence also helps you maintain perspective. When anger arises, it's easy to get caught up in the emotion of the moment and lose sight of what's truly important. But silence gives you the time and space to reflect on whether the situation is really worth your energy. Often, you'll find that the anger is temporary and not worth sacrificing your peace over. Silence can also serve as a reminder to stay grounded. In moments of anger, it's easy to get swept up in the emotion and react impulsively. But when you choose silence, you remind yourself that you have the power to stay calm, no matter what's happening around you. This grounding helps you maintain your sense of inner peace and control, even in the face of external chaos. Walking away from anger with silence also protects your relationships. Words spoken in anger can create deep wounds, but silence allows for healing. By choosing not to engage in conflict, you give yourself and others the space to reflect and cool down. This space often leads to better communication and understanding once emotions have settled. Silence can also help you practice humility. In moments of anger, the ego often feels threatened, pushing you to defend yourself or prove a point. But silence allows you to step back from the ego and recognize that not every situation requires a reaction. This humility helps you stay connected to your values and prevents you from getting caught up in unnecessary conflict. The Stoics valued silence because it allows you to stay in control of your own emotions. Anger often makes you feel out of control, but by choosing silence, you take back that power. You show yourself that you are not at the mercy of your emotions, but that you can choose how to respond. This sense of control builds emotional resilience and strengthens your ability to navigate difficult situations with grace. Silence also creates space for introspection. When anger arises, it's often a signal that something deeper is going on, whether it's an unmet need, a fear, or a boundary that's been crossed. By choosing silence, you give yourself the opportunity to reflect on what's really happening beneath the surface. This reflection helps you understand yourself better and allows you to address the root cause of the anger, rather than reacting to the surface-level situation. Choosing silence in the face of anger also fosters patience. Anger often comes with a sense of urgency, pushing you to react immediately. But silence teaches you to slow down, to wait, and to allow emotions to settle before responding. This patience not only prevents unnecessary conflict, but also helps you develop greater emotional strength and resilience over time. The Stoics believed that silence is a form of wisdom. When emotions are running high, it's easy to say things that you later regret. But silence allows you to avoid these pitfalls. It gives you the time to reflect on the best course of action, ensuring that your words and actions align with your values and the outcomes you truly desire. Another powerful aspect of silence is that it allows you to rise above the situation. When someone is angry or trying to provoke you, engaging in conflict brings you down to their level. But by choosing silence, you remain above the fray. You show that you are not controlled by external events or the emotions of others. This ability to rise above demonstrates emotional maturity and strength. Silence also helps you develop emotional detachment. When you choose not to engage with anger, you practice the Stoic principle of detachment from external events. You recognize that other people's actions and words are beyond your control, and you refuse to let them disrupt your inner peace. This detachment helps you stay centered and focused on what truly matters, even in difficult situations. Choosing silence in moments of anger also helps you build stronger relationships. By not engaging in conflict, you create an environment of respect and understanding. Silence allows both you and the other person to cool down and approach the situation with a clearer mind. This leads to more constructive communication and prevents the damage that anger-driven arguments can cause. The Stoics valued silence because it promotes self-awareness. When you choose not to react in the heat of the moment, you give yourself the time to reflect on your own emotions and behavior. This reflection helps you understand what triggers your anger and allows you to make conscious choices about how to respond in the future. Over time, this self-awareness leads to greater emotional mastery. Silence also serves as a form of protection from negative influences. In moments of anger, it's easy to be influenced by the emotions of others, but by choosing silence, you protect yourself from getting swept up in their negativity. You maintain your emotional boundaries and ensure that your actions are guided by your own values, rather than the emotions of others. When you choose silence, you also practice emotional conservation. Anger can be exhausting. It drains your mental and emotional energy. But by staying quiet and walking away from conflict, you conserve that energy for more productive and meaningful pursuits. This conservation allows you to stay focused on your goals and maintain your sense of inner calm, even in challenging situations. The Stoics believed that silence allows you to cultivate emotional resilience. Each time you choose not to react to anger, you strengthen your ability to remain calm under pressure. This resilience becomes a powerful tool for navigating life's challenges with grace and composure, allowing you to face adversity without being overwhelmed by emotion. Silence also creates space for healing. When anger arises, both you and the other person may be caught up in the intensity of the moment. But by choosing silence, you give yourself and others the time to cool down and reflect. This space often leads to deeper understanding and healing, allowing you to move forward without the lingering effects of conflict. Choosing silence in moments of anger also helps you maintain emotional consistency. Anger often causes emotional fluctuations, pushing you from calm to chaos in an instant. But silence helps you stay steady. It prevents the emotional roller coaster that comes with reacting to anger, allowing you to maintain a sense of balance and stability. Silence also fosters empathy. When you choose not to react in anger, you create space to consider the other person's perspective. You can reflect on what might be driving their emotions and approach the situation with compassion. This empathy helps to diffuse tension and promotes more meaningful connections. The Stoics valued silence because it promotes emotional clarity. When you're silent, you have the time and space to reflect on the situation, your emotions, and the best way to move forward. This clarity prevents impulsive reactions and ensures that your actions are guided by wisdom rather than anger. Silence also allows you to demonstrate respect for yourself and for others. By choosing not to engage in conflict, you show that you value your own peace and the dignity of the other person. This respect fosters healthier relationships and prevents the damage that comes from anger-fueled interactions. The power of silence lies in its ability to create space for reflection. In moments of anger, it's easy to get caught up in the emotion of the moment and lose sight of the bigger picture. But silence allows you to step back, reflect on what's truly important, and choose a response that aligns with your values. Silence can also serve as a reminder of your own strength. When you choose not to react to anger, you demonstrate to yourself that you have the power to control your emotions. This self-mastery builds confidence and reinforces your ability to remain calm in even the most challenging situations. The Stoics understood that silence is a form of emotional liberation. By choosing not to engage with anger, you free yourself from the emotional chains that conflict can create. You maintain your peace, your clarity, and your emotional strength, even in the face of provocation. Finally, silence allows you to embody the core Stoic principle of focusing on what you can control. You cannot control the actions, words, or emotions of others, but you can always control your response. By choosing silence, you exercise that control with wisdom and grace, preserving your energy and maintaining your inner peace in even the most heated situations. Silence offers you space, clarity, and control. But to fully master anger and keep it from dominating your life, you need more than just restraint in the moment. The next step is deeper reflection. Stoic reflection is a powerful tool for understanding the roots of anger, identifying triggers, and preventing it from building up and controlling your actions. By reflecting on your day, your emotions, and the situations that trigger anger, you gain the insight needed to break the cycle of reaction. Through this daily practice, you begin to master not just your outward responses, but also the inner thoughts that fuel anger. Reflection is like holding up a mirror to your mind. When you take time each day to review your thoughts and emotions, you begin to notice patterns. You see which situations consistently make you angry, and you start to understand why. This understanding is the key to breaking free from anger's grip. The Stoics believed that awareness is the first step toward mastery, and reflection offers that awareness. By regularly examining your emotional responses, you develop the self-awareness needed to prevent anger from controlling you. Through Stoic reflection, you begin to see that anger often arises from expectations. You expect people to behave a certain way, or situations to unfold according to your plan, and when reality doesn't match your expectations, anger flares up. By reflecting on these moments, you can start to adjust your expectations. You realize that many things are beyond your control, and that expecting them to align with your desires only sets you up for frustration. Letting go of these unrealistic expectations is a key part of Stoic wisdom and a powerful way to prevent anger from taking over. Daily reflection also helps you separate what is within your control from what is not. Anger often stems from trying to control things that are, by their nature, uncontrollable. Other people's behavior, the outcome of events, or external circumstances. By reflecting on these moments, you remind yourself of the Stoic principle that you can only control your own thoughts and actions. This shift in perspective helps you let go of the need to control everything around you, reducing the chances of anger taking hold. Another insight that comes from Stoic reflection is the understanding that anger is often a defense mechanism. It can mask deeper emotions like fear, insecurity, or sadness. When you take time to reflect, you can begin to uncover these underlying emotions. Instead of reacting with anger, you learn to address the true root of the issue. This level of introspection prevents anger from becoming a default response and opens the door to more thoughtful and compassionate reactions. Reflection also helps you identify your triggers, those specific situations, words, or actions that tend to provoke anger. Once you're aware of these triggers, you can prepare for them. You can develop strategies to respond calmly when they arise, rather than being caught off guard. This proactive approach, born from reflection, gives you the upper hand in managing your emotions and staying in control. Another benefit of reflection is that it helps you track your progress. By regularly reviewing your emotional responses, you can see how far you've come in managing your anger. You notice moments where you stayed calm in situations that would have previously provoked you. This awareness builds confidence and reinforces your commitment to emotional mastery. Each day becomes an opportunity to improve and refine your ability to control anger, and reflection is the tool that helps you measure that growth. Through reflection, you also gain a deeper understanding of the impermanence of emotions. Anger, like all emotions, comes and goes. It feels intense in the moment, but it always fades. By reflecting on past moments of anger, you can see this pattern clearly. You remember times when you were furious, only to realize later that the situation wasn't as significant as it seemed. This realization helps you stay calm in the future, knowing that the intensity of anger will pass if you don't feed it. Reflection also helps you develop greater empathy. When you reflect on moments of anger, you can start to see things from the other person's perspective. You ask yourself why they acted the way they did, what pressures or struggles they might be facing. This shift in perspective not only softens your anger, but also allows you to respond with more compassion and understanding. Empathy is a powerful antidote to anger, and reflection helps you cultivate it. Stoic reflection also teaches you that anger is often a choice. In the heat of the moment, it may not feel that way, but through reflection, you begin to see that you have more control over your emotional responses than you realize. By reflecting on past moments of anger, you can identify the points where you could have chosen a different response. This awareness empowers you to make different choices in the future, reducing the likelihood of anger taking control. Another important aspect of reflection is that it helps you detach from the ego. Anger often arises when the ego feels threatened, when someone challenges your sense of identity or self-worth. By reflecting on these moments, you can begin to see that the ego is not who you truly are. You learn to separate your sense of self from the opinions and actions of others, which makes it much harder for anger to take root. Daily reflection also helps you develop patience. Anger often comes from a sense of impatience, a desire for things to be different right now. But reflection teaches you that growth and change take time. By reflecting on your own emotional journey, you learn to be patient with yourself and with others. You realize that immediate reactions are rarely helpful, and that giving yourself and others the space to grow leads to more lasting solutions. Stoic reflection also encourages gratitude. When you take time to reflect on your day, you can focus not only on the moments of anger, but also on the moments of peace, kindness, and joy. This practice of gratitude shifts your perspective away from frustration and toward appreciation. It helps you see that anger, while powerful, is not the only emotion you experience. By balancing reflection with gratitude, you create a more positive and balanced outlook on life. Another key insight from Stoic reflection is the understanding that anger often arises from a desire to control the uncontrollable. Whether it's trying to change someone else's behavior or wishing a situation were different, this desire for control fuels frustration. Reflection helps you let go of this need for control and accept things as they are. This acceptance reduces the power that anger has over you, allowing you to respond with calmness and clarity. Reflection also helps you build resilience. By regularly reviewing your emotional responses, you become more aware of your strengths and weaknesses. You see where you've handled situations well and where you've struggled. This self-awareness helps you build resilience as you learn from each experience and develop strategies to handle future challenges with greater ease. Daily reflection also deepens your connection to your values. When you reflect on moments of anger, you can ask yourself whether your response aligned with the person you want to be. Did your actions reflect your values, or were they driven by emotion? This process of reflection helps you stay true to your principles and ensures that your behavior is guided by reason rather than impulse. Through reflection, you also learn to forgive, both yourself and others. Anger often arises from holding on to past grievances, but reflection helps you let go. By reflecting on moments of conflict, you can begin to understand the other person's perspective and find compassion for their actions. At the same time, you can forgive yourself for moments where you've reacted in anger, recognizing that growth is a gradual process. Another powerful benefit of reflection is that it helps you stay focused on what truly matters. Anger often arises from getting caught up in trivial issues, but reflection helps you step back and see the bigger picture. By regularly reviewing your day, you can identify the moments that were worth your energy and the ones that weren't. This awareness helps you stay focused on what's important, reducing the likelihood of anger distracting you from your true goals. Reflection also teaches you to be mindful of your language. Words spoken in anger can cause lasting harm, but reflection helps you become more aware of the power of your words. By reviewing moments of anger, you can see how your language either escalated or de-escalated a situation. This awareness encourages you to choose your words more carefully in the future, promoting more thoughtful and compassionate communication. Through Stoic reflection, you also learn to embrace imperfection, both in yourself and in others. Anger often arises from expecting perfection, whether it's from people, situations, or even yourself. But reflection helps you see that imperfection is a natural part of life. By accepting this truth, you reduce the frustration that comes from unmet expectations and create more space for patience and understanding. Reflection also fosters a sense of inner peace. When you regularly take time to reflect, you create a calm space within yourself where you can process emotions and experiences. This inner calm becomes a refuge in moments of anger, allowing you to return to a place of balance and clarity. Over time, this practice of reflection strengthens your ability to stay grounded in the face of emotional storms. Another key insight from reflection is that anger often arises from a sense of injustice. You feel that something unfair has happened, and anger is your response to that perceived injustice. But Stoicism teaches that life is not always fair, and reflection helps you come to terms with this reality. By reflecting on moments of anger, you can begin to accept that some things are beyond your control, and that holding on to anger only prolongs your suffering. Through reflection, you also develop greater self-discipline. Anger can be impulsive, but reflection helps you build the discipline to pause before reacting. Each time you reflect on a moment of anger, you reinforce the importance of self-control. Over time, this discipline becomes second nature, helping you respond to challenges with calmness and restraint. Reflection also deepens your understanding of the fleeting nature of emotions. Anger feels intense in the moment, but it never lasts. By reflecting on past moments of anger, you can see this pattern clearly. This awareness helps you stay calm in the present, knowing that the intensity of the emotion will pass if you don't feed it. Another important aspect of reflection is that it helps you develop greater emotional flexibility. Life is unpredictable, and anger often arises when things don't go as planned. But reflection teaches you to adapt to changing circumstances with grace. By regularly reviewing your emotional responses, you learn to stay flexible in the face of challenges, preventing anger from taking control. Daily reflection also strengthens your sense of accountability. When you reflect on moments of anger, you take responsibility for your actions. You acknowledge where you could have responded better and commit to making improvements. This accountability helps you grow emotionally and prevents you from blaming others for your own reactions. Through Stoic reflection, you also develop a greater appreciation for silence. In moments of anger, silence offers space for reflection and clarity. By regularly reflecting on how silence has helped you maintain control, you reinforce the value of this powerful tool. Silence becomes a source of strength, helping you navigate moments of conflict with wisdom and grace. Reflection also helps you build emotional resilience. By regularly reviewing your emotional responses, you become more aware of your strengths and weaknesses. You see where you've handled situations well and where you've struggled. This self-awareness helps you build resilience as you learn from each experience and develop strategies to handle future challenges with greater ease. Daily reflection also deepens your connection to your values. When you reflect on moments of anger, you can ask yourself whether your response aligned with the person you want to be. Did your actions reflect your values, or were they driven by emotion? This process of reflection helps you stay true to your principles and ensures that your behavior is guided by reason rather than impulse. Through reflection, you also learn to forgive, both yourself and others. Anger often arises from holding on to past grievances, but reflection helps you let go. By reflecting on moments of conflict, you can begin to understand the other person's perspective and find compassion for their actions. At the same time, you can forgive yourself for moments where you've reacted in anger, recognizing that growth is a gradual process. Another powerful benefit of reflection is that it helps you stay focused on what truly matters. Anger often arises from getting caught up in trivial issues, but reflection helps you step back and see the bigger picture. By regularly reviewing your day, you can identify the moments that were worth your energy and the ones that weren't. This awareness helps you stay focused on what's important, reducing the likelihood of anger distracting you from your true goals. Reflection also teaches you to be mindful of your language. Words spoken in anger can cause lasting harm, but reflection helps you become more aware of the power of your words. By reviewing moments of anger, you can see how your language either escalated or de-escalated a situation. This awareness encourages you to choose your words more carefully in the future, promoting more thoughtful and compassionate communication. Through Stoic reflection, you also learn to embrace imperfection, both in yourself and in others. Anger often arises from expecting perfection, whether it's from people, situations, or even yourself. But reflection helps you see that imperfection is a natural part of life. By accepting this truth, you reduce the frustration that comes from unmet expectations and create more space for patience and understanding. Reflection also fosters a sense of inner peace. When you regularly take time to reflect, you create a calm space within yourself where you can process emotions and experiences. This inner calm becomes a refuge in moments of anger, allowing you to return to a place of balance and clarity. Over time, this practice of reflection strengthens your ability to stay grounded. As reflection deepens your inner peace and self-awareness, the next step in mastering anger involves looking outward, understanding the perspectives of others. Often, anger flares when we feel misunderstood or disrespected. But Stoicism teaches that by shifting our focus and seeing the world through someone else's eyes, we can dissolve much of the tension that fuels anger. Empathy, a core Stoic practice, allows us to step back from our personal frustrations and see that others are not necessarily acting against us, but according to their own circumstances and emotions. By understanding where they are coming from, we can navigate situations with far more patience and grace. Empathy is not about agreeing with someone else's viewpoint. It's about recognizing that every person has their own struggles, fears, and motivations. When someone acts in a way that provokes your anger, it's often because they are dealing with pressures or insecurities you cannot see. Reflecting on this truth helps you take things less personally, diffusing anger before it can take root. Instead of reacting, you respond with greater understanding and calm. The Stoics understood that everyone interprets the world through their own lens. What triggers anger in one person may not even register for another. When you try to see things from another person's viewpoint, you realize that their actions are not always about you. They are reacting based on their own life experiences, their own internal struggles. This realization helps you to let go of the idea that their behavior is a personal attack, reducing your emotional response. Another benefit of seeing things from another's perspective is that it helps you cultivate patience. When you understand that others are dealing with their own challenges, you become more patient with their shortcomings or mistakes. You realize that everyone, including yourself, is imperfect. This patience creates space for compassion rather than frustration, helping to prevent anger from building up. Understanding someone else's viewpoint also reveals that many conflicts arise from miscommunication. People don't always express themselves clearly, and their words or actions can easily be misunderstood. By taking the time to consider what they might truly mean or what they are struggling to communicate, you can avoid jumping to conclusions. This thoughtful approach allows you to engage with others more calmly and prevents the quick escalation of anger. Empathy, as practiced by the Stoics, also leads to forgiveness. When you understand the pressures and pain that may drive someone's behavior, you are more likely to forgive them for actions that would otherwise provoke anger. Forgiveness doesn't mean condoning bad behavior, but it does mean releasing the emotional burden of anger that comes with holding on to a grudge. Through understanding, you find a path to emotional freedom. Another powerful aspect of understanding others is that it helps you break down the walls of judgment. Anger often stems from judging others too harshly, assuming that their actions are driven by malice or carelessness. But when you take a moment to consider their situation, you might find that their behavior is rooted in fear, confusion, or even a simple mistake. This awareness helps to soften your anger and allows for more constructive responses. When you practice seeing the world through someone else's eyes, you also develop emotional flexibility. Instead of being rigid in your perspective, you become open to the idea that there are multiple ways to interpret a situation. This flexibility reduces the likelihood of anger because you are not locked into a single, often negative interpretation of events. You see that there is more than one truth, and this broadens your capacity for empathy and patience. Understanding others' perspectives also helps you recognize that anger is often a reflection of misunderstanding. When you think someone is acting unfairly or disrespectfully, it's easy to get angry. But by considering their point of view, you may realize that their intentions were not harmful. They may simply have a different approach or set of priorities. This shift in understanding allows you to respond with more kindness and less frustration. Another valuable outcome of empathy is the strengthening of relationships. Anger can drive a wedge between people, but understanding brings you closer together. When you take the time to see things from someone else's perspective, you show them that you value their thoughts and feelings. This fosters mutual respect and reduces the likelihood of future conflicts. The bonds of understanding create a more peaceful and harmonious dynamic in your relationships. Empathy also encourages humility. When you take a step back and consider another's viewpoint, you recognize that you don't have all the answers. You see that your perspective is just one of many and that others' experiences are equally valid. This humility helps to soften your anger and allows you to approach conflicts with a more open mind. Instead of needing to be right, you focus on understanding and connection. Understanding someone else's perspective can also reveal your own blind spots. Often, anger arises when someone challenges your beliefs or behaviors. But by seeing the situation from their side, you might discover areas where you've been rigid or mistaken. This awareness helps you grow, not only by reducing anger, but by broadening your own understanding of the world. Another benefit of empathy is that it helps you handle criticism more effectively. When you feel attacked or criticized, anger is often the first response. But by stepping into the other person's shoes, you can see that their criticism might not be intended as an attack. They may be trying to help, or they may be dealing with their own frustrations. Understanding their viewpoint allows you to take the criticism less personally and respond more constructively. When you look at the world through someone else's perspective, you also develop greater emotional resilience. Anger weakens you by narrowing your focus and consuming your energy. But empathy expands your perspective, helping you see the bigger picture. You realize that other people's actions are often influenced by factors beyond your control, and this understanding gives you the emotional strength to rise above anger and react with calmness. Empathy also fosters forgiveness of yourself. Sometimes the hardest person to understand is yourself. You might hold on to anger because of your own perceived failures or mistakes. But when you extend the same empathy to yourself that you give to others, you begin to understand your own motivations and challenges more clearly. This self-understanding helps you let go of self-directed anger and embrace growth and self-compassion. Seeing others' perspectives helps you practice gratitude. When you understand the difficulties and struggles that others face, you become more grateful for the positives in your own life. This gratitude reduces the sense of entitlement that often fuels anger, replacing it with a deeper appreciation for what you have. The more you practice empathy, the more you see the interconnectedness of all human experiences, which brings peace rather than frustration. Empathy also empowers you to respond rather than react. Anger is often a knee-jerk reaction to feeling wronged or misunderstood, but when you take the time to see the situation from someone else's viewpoint, you slow down your emotional response. This allows you to respond thoughtfully and with greater wisdom. Instead of fueling the fire of conflict, you diffuse it with understanding and patience. Understanding others' perspectives also helps you avoid the trap of blame. It's easy to blame others when things go wrong, but blame often intensifies anger and prolongs conflict. By looking at the situation through the other person's eyes, you might realize that they were doing the best they could with the knowledge and resources they had. This realization helps you let go of blame and approach the situation with greater compassion and problem-solving intent. Empathy, as taught by the Stoics, is a form of strength. It takes courage to put aside your own frustrations and seek to understand someone else's experience. But in doing so, you cultivate a deeper sense of emotional balance and resilience. You become less reactive, more thoughtful, and better equipped to navigate the complexities of human relationships without letting anger take over. Seeing things from another person's viewpoint also helps you practice non-judgment. Anger often arises from quick judgments about someone's behavior or intentions. But when you pause and consider their perspective, you realize that judgment is often based on incomplete information. This realization encourages you to withhold judgment, which in turn reduces the emotional charge of the situation and allows for a calmer, more measured response. Another powerful aspect of empathy is that it helps you see the humanity in others. When someone frustrates or angers you, it's easy to dehumanize them in your mind, seeing them only as the source of your frustration. But by understanding their perspective, you recognize that they are a complex person with their own struggles, joys, and fears. This recognition softens your anger and helps you approach the situation with more kindness and patience. Empathy also helps you avoid unnecessary conflict. Many disagreements and arguments arise from simple misunderstandings, but when you take the time to understand where the other person is coming from, you can often resolve the issue before it turns into a full-blown conflict. This proactive approach reduces the need for anger and creates a more peaceful and harmonious environment. Another valuable outcome of seeing others' perspectives is that it encourages collaboration. When you're able to understand someone else's viewpoint, you're more likely to find common ground. This collaborative mindset helps to resolve conflicts more effectively and fosters a sense of teamwork rather than opposition. Instead of being adversaries, you and the other person work together to find a solution which prevents anger from escalating. Understanding others also helps you practice acceptance. People are who they are, and they act according to their own nature and experiences. When you understand this, you stop trying to change them or force them to meet your expectations. This acceptance reduces the frustration and anger that comes from unmet expectations, allowing you to approach others with more grace and peace. Seeing things from another person's viewpoint also fosters greater self-awareness. As you try to understand their perspective, you inevitably reflect on your own. This reflection helps you become more aware of your own biases, triggers, and emotional responses. The more self-aware you become, the better equipped you are to manage your own emotions and prevent anger from taking control. Empathy also teaches you the importance of timing. Sometimes people act out or lash out because they are going through a difficult time. By understanding this, you can choose when and how to engage with them more effectively. Instead of reacting immediately with anger, you can step back, give them space, and address the issue when emotions have cooled. This thoughtful approach helps to prevent unnecessary conflict and fosters a more peaceful resolution. Another key insight from empathy is the realization that people's actions are often driven by fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown. These fears can cause people to act in ways that provoke anger in others. But by understanding that fear is often at the root of their behavior, you can approach them with more compassion. This understanding helps you move beyond anger and respond with patience and support. Empathy also helps you practice letting go. When you understand that others are acting based on their own internal struggles, you realize that you don't have to carry the emotional burden of their actions. You can let go of the anger and frustration, knowing that their behavior is not a reflection of you. This practice of letting go creates more space for peace and emotional freedom in your life. Seeing things from another person's perspective also helps you practice detachment. You realize that their actions are not about you. They are simply doing the best they can with the tools they have. This detachment helps you avoid taking things personally, which in turn prevents anger from taking over. By detaching from the need for others to behave in a certain way, you free yourself from the emotional turmoil that often accompanies anger. Empathy also fosters emotional intelligence. The more you practice understanding others, the more attuned you become to the emotional dynamics of any situation. This emotional intelligence helps you navigate conflicts with greater ease and prevents anger from escalating. You become more skilled at recognizing when someone is acting out of hurt or frustration, and this awareness allows you to respond in a way that de-escalates the situation. Through empathy, you also develop a greater sense of responsibility. When you understand the challenges and struggles that others face, you become more mindful of how your actions and words impact them. This sense of responsibility encourages you to act with greater kindness and thoughtfulness, reducing the likelihood of anger-driven conflicts. Finally, understanding others' perspectives helps you practice love. At its core, empathy is an act of love. Love for others, love for humanity, and love for yourself. By seeking to understand rather than judge, you create more space for connection, peace, and compassion in your life. In doing so, you not only reduce anger, but also cultivate a deeper sense of fulfillment and harmony in your relationships and in yourself. Empathy helps you understand others' perspectives, but true emotional mastery comes when you can consistently choose how you respond, rather than react impulsively. When faced with conflict, It's easy to let emotions drive your actions. However, reacting emotionally often leads to regret, miscommunication, and unnecessary escalation. Stoicism teaches the importance of pausing, reflecting, and choosing a thoughtful response. By doing so, you maintain control over your emotions and steer the conflict toward resolution rather than letting anger take over. Reacting to conflict usually happens when emotions are at their peak, but Stoicism encourages you to create space between stimulus and response. In that brief pause, you gain the ability to reflect on your feelings and assess the situation calmly. This is where your power lies. Instead of reacting out of anger or frustration, you make a conscious decision about how to respond in a way that aligns with your values and goals. This shift from reaction to response transforms the way you handle conflict. When you react, you let the situation dictate your behavior, but when you respond, you're in control. Reacting tends to be automatic, often driven by fear, anger, or frustration. Responding, on the other hand, requires awareness and thought. It allows you to consider the bigger picture and choose an action that aligns with your long-term interests, not just your immediate emotional state. This shift helps you stay grounded during conflict, preventing you from being swept away by temporary emotions. A key aspect of learning to respond instead of react is mastering emotional detachment. Stoicism teaches that you should detach from the need for things to go your way. This doesn't mean apathy or indifference. It means accepting that you cannot control external events, only how you respond to them. When you let go of the need for control, you free yourself from the frustration that fuels emotional reactions. Instead, you approach conflicts with calmness and clarity, choosing a response that preserves your peace. In the heat of conflict, it's easy to feel defensive. But Stoicism teaches that defensiveness is often a reaction born out of ego. When you feel attacked, the instinct is to react quickly to protect yourself. However, by pausing and responding thoughtfully, you can rise above the need to defend your ego. This creates space for more productive communication, where the focus is on resolution rather than winning an argument. Responding thoughtfully allows you to maintain your integrity even when emotions run high. When you choose to respond instead of react, you're practicing self-control. Anger and frustration push you to act impulsively, but responding thoughtfully is an exercise in discipline. By taking the time to consider your actions, you strengthen your ability to stay calm under pressure. This self-control not only helps you navigate conflict more effectively, but also builds your emotional resilience over time. Another benefit of responding thoughtfully is that it reduces the likelihood of escalation. When you react emotionally, you often provoke a similar emotional reaction in others, leading to a cycle of escalating conflict. But when you respond calmly and thoughtfully, you set the tone for a more measured conversation. Your calmness can diffuse the situation, encouraging others to mirror your composed behavior. This de-escalation is key to resolving conflicts peacefully. Responding rather than reacting also fosters better relationships. When you take the time to think before you act, you demonstrate respect for the other person. You show that you value the relationship enough to consider your words and actions carefully. This respect strengthens the bond between you, making future conflicts easier to navigate. By consistently choosing to respond with thoughtfulness, you build a foundation of trust and understanding in your relationships. When you react, you often focus on the immediate issue, but when you respond, you take a step back to consider the long-term impact of your actions. Stoicism encourages you to keep the bigger picture in mind during conflicts. Is this argument worth damaging a relationship? Will reacting in anger help or hurt your long-term goals? By reflecting on these questions, you make decisions that align with your long-term well-being, rather than being driven by short-term emotions. Responding instead of reacting also helps you practice humility. Often, reactions are fueled by a need to prove yourself right or to protect your pride. But when you respond thoughtfully, you recognize that winning the argument isn't always the most important goal. Humility allows you to listen more carefully to the other person's perspective, and this willingness to understand often leads to better outcomes. Responding with humility fosters a sense of collaboration rather than opposition. Another powerful aspect of responding rather than reacting is that it helps you avoid saying things you'll later regret. Words spoken in anger can leave lasting scars, but when you take the time to reflect before speaking, you choose your words more carefully. Stoicism teaches the value of silence and restraint, reminding you that not every thought needs to be expressed. By holding back reactive words, you preserve your relationships and protect your own integrity. Responding thoughtfully also requires patience. In conflict, the urge to react quickly can be overwhelming, but Stoicism encourages you to be patient with yourself and others. By allowing emotions to settle before responding, you give yourself the time and space needed to think clearly. This patience often leads to more effective solutions because you're no longer operating from a place of emotional urgency. Instead, you're acting from a place of calm deliberation. When you shift from reacting to responding, you also practice emotional balance. Reacting emotionally often leads to extreme highs and lows, anger, frustration, regret. But responding thoughtfully helps you maintain a steady emotional state. This balance is crucial for managing conflict effectively. It allows you to remain centered no matter what the other person says or does. Emotional balance prevents you from being thrown off course by external events. Responding rather than reacting also helps you cultivate empathy. When you react, you're focused on your own feelings and perspective. But when you respond, you take the time to consider the other person's viewpoint. This empathy softens the emotional charge of the conflict and helps you approach the situation with greater understanding. By responding with empathy, you're more likely to find common ground and resolve the conflict in a way that benefits both parties. Another benefit of responding thoughtfully is that it allows you to maintain your sense of purpose. In conflict, it's easy to lose sight of your goals and get caught up in the emotional back and forth. But when you pause to reflect before responding, you reconnect with your purpose. What do you really want out of this situation? What's the most constructive way to achieve it? This clarity of purpose helps you navigate conflict more effectively, ensuring that your actions are aligned with your long-term goals. Stoicism also teaches that responding rather than reacting builds emotional resilience. Each time you choose to respond thoughtfully, you strengthen your ability to handle stress and conflict with grace. Over time, this practice becomes second nature, allowing you to face even the most challenging situations with calmness and control. Emotional resilience is the foundation of a Stoic approach to conflict, helping you remain steady in the face of adversity. Another key insight from Stoicism is that reacting emotionally often leads to unintended consequences. When you react without thinking, you may say or do things that escalate the conflict or damage your relationships. But when you respond thoughtfully, you take the time to consider the potential outcomes of your actions. This foresight helps you avoid unnecessary harm and ensures that your actions contribute to a positive resolution rather than making the situation worse. Responding thoughtfully also helps you practice self-compassion. Conflict can be emotionally draining, and reacting impulsively often leads to feelings of guilt or regret. But when you respond thoughtfully, you give yourself the space to handle the situation with grace and patience. This self-compassion helps you navigate conflict without being too hard on yourself, allowing you to learn and grow from the experience rather than being weighed down by negative emotions. When you choose to respond instead of react, you also practice emotional freedom. Reacting emotionally often feels like being a slave to your feelings. Anger, frustration, and fear control your actions. But responding thoughtfully gives you the freedom to choose your response. You're no longer at the mercy of your emotions. Instead, you're in control of how you handle the situation. This emotional freedom is empowering, helping you face conflict with confidence. Responding thoughtfully also fosters accountability. When you react impulsively, it's easy to blame others for your emotions. But when you respond, you take responsibility for your actions. This accountability helps you build stronger relationships because you're not deflecting blame or avoiding responsibility. Instead, you're showing that you're willing to own your actions and work toward a resolution, even when the situation is difficult. Another powerful aspect of responding thoughtfully is that it helps you stay true to your values. In the heat of conflict, it's easy to act in ways that go against your principles. But when you take the time to reflect before responding, you ensure that your actions are in line with your values. This integrity helps you navigate conflict with confidence, knowing that you're staying true to who you are, even in challenging situations. Responding instead of reacting also encourages flexibility. When you react emotionally, you're often stuck in a rigid mindset, focused on being right or proving your point. But when you respond thoughtfully, you become more open to different perspectives and solutions. This flexibility allows you to adapt to the situation and find creative ways to resolve the conflict. By staying flexible, you're more likely to reach a positive outcome that benefits everyone involved. Stoicism teaches that responding thoughtfully also helps you manage your energy. Conflict can be emotionally exhausting, especially when it involves intense reactions and back-and-forth arguments. But by responding calmly and deliberately, you conserve your energy for what truly matters. This energy management allows you to stay focused and clear-headed, even in the midst of a challenging situation, ensuring that you're not drained by unnecessary emotional reactions. Another benefit of responding thoughtfully is that it fosters more meaningful communication. When you react, your words are often driven by emotion rather than intention. But when you respond, you choose your words carefully, ensuring that they reflect your true thoughts and feelings. This mindful communication leads to more productive conversations, where both parties feel heard and respected. Thoughtful responses encourage dialogue, not division. Responding rather than reacting also helps you avoid impulsive decisions. In conflict, it's easy to make snap judgments or take drastic actions based on emotion. But by responding thoughtfully, you give yourself the time to consider the best course of action. This deliberation helps you avoid making decisions you'll later regret, ensuring that your actions are guided by reason rather than impulse. When you respond instead of react, you also practice emotional boundaries. Reacting emotionally often leads to taking on other people's emotions and making their problems your own. But responding thoughtfully allows you to maintain healthy emotional boundaries. You recognize that while you can empathize with others, you don't have to absorb their emotions or let their actions dictate your feelings. This emotional boundary protects your peace and helps you stay grounded during conflict. Responding thoughtfully also helps you practice emotional clarity. In the midst of conflict, emotions can cloud your judgment, making it difficult to see the situation clearly. But by pausing to reflect before responding, you give yourself the opportunity to gain clarity. This clarity allows you to see the situation for what it truly is, rather than being overwhelmed by emotional distortions. With clear vision, you're better equipped to handle conflict effectively. When you choose to respond rather than react, you also practice forgiveness. Reacting emotionally often leads to holding on to grudges or resentments, but responding thoughtfully encourages you to let go of past grievances. This forgiveness doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior, but it does mean releasing the emotional weight of anger and choosing to move forward with peace. By responding with forgiveness, you free yourself from the burden of unresolved conflict. Another benefit of responding thoughtfully is that it helps you stay focused on the solution rather than the problem. When you react emotionally, you often get caught up in the issue itself, losing sight of the goal of resolution. But when you respond, you keep your focus on finding a constructive way forward. This solution-oriented mindset ensures that your actions contribute to resolving the conflict rather than perpetuating it. Responding thoughtfully also helps you practice resilience in the face of criticism. When someone criticizes you, the instinct is often to react defensively. But by pausing and considering their perspective, you can respond with more grace and openness. This resilience allows you to handle criticism without letting it damage your self-worth, ensuring that you grow from the experience rather than being brought down by it. Stoicism teaches that responding rather than reacting fosters emotional maturity. Each time you choose to respond thoughtfully, you strengthen your ability to navigate conflict with wisdom and grace. This emotional maturity helps you handle future conflicts with greater ease, ensuring that you approach every situation with a calm and composed mindset. Over time, this practice of thoughtful response becomes second nature, allowing you to handle even the most challenging conflicts with confidence. When you master the art of responding instead of reacting, you begin to recognize how much of your emotional energy is spent on things you can't control. The Stoics believed that one of the greatest sources of peace is learning to detach from external events. Anger, frustration, and disappointment often arise from trying to control things that are inherently uncontrollable: the actions of others, the outcome of situations, and even the course of life itself. Stoicism teaches that real power lies in accepting what is beyond your control and focusing on how you respond. By detaching from external events, you protect your inner peace and free yourself from the turmoil that so often accompanies conflict. Detachment begins with the recognition that most of the things that provoke anger or frustration are external to you. Whether it's the behavior of a colleague, an unexpected event, or even a disappointing result, these are all things that you cannot directly influence. Trying to control them is like fighting the wind. The more you resist, the more exhausted you become. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means accepting that you cannot control everything. Once you accept this, the frustration melts away, leaving you with a sense of calm clarity. External events often trigger strong emotions because they challenge your expectations. You expect people to act a certain way, or situations to unfold according to your plans. When reality doesn't meet these expectations, frustration arises. But Stoicism teaches that these expectations are the root of your suffering. By letting go of rigid expectations and accepting the unpredictability of life, you free yourself from the emotional roller coaster that comes from trying to control the uncontrollable. You learn to flow with life rather than fighting against it. Another powerful aspect of detachment is understanding that your worth is not tied to external circumstances. So much of your frustration comes from the belief that you need things to go a certain way to feel validated, successful, or happy. But when you detach from external outcomes, you realize that your sense of peace and self-worth is internal. No external event has the power to define who you are. This realization is liberating because it frees you from the constant need to control outcomes and allows you to remain grounded no matter what happens around you. Detachment also helps you let go of resentment and grudges. When you're overly attached to how others should behave, you open yourself up to constant disappointment. People are unpredictable, and they often act in ways that you don't expect or agree with. By detaching from the need for others to behave according to your expectations, you free yourself from the emotional burden of holding on to resentment. You recognize that their actions are beyond your control, and you let go of the anger that comes with trying to change them. Stoicism teaches that external events are neither good nor bad. It is your interpretation of them that creates emotional turmoil. Detaching from external events means understanding that the event itself is neutral. It is your reaction that gives it power. By choosing to detach and view the situation from a more objective perspective, you reduce the emotional charge of the event. This perspective shift allows you to approach life's challenges with greater calm and clarity, without being overwhelmed by frustration or anger. Another key insight from detachment is that it allows you to focus on what truly matters. When you're caught up in external events, you often lose sight of your own values and goals. You become reactive, constantly responding to what's happening around you. But when you detach from external outcomes, you regain control over your focus and attention. You become more intentional about where you direct your energy, prioritizing what aligns with your values, rather than getting swept up in the noise of the outside world. Detaching from external events also helps you develop resilience. Life is full of unexpected twists and turns, and many of them are beyond your control. But by accepting this reality, you build the emotional strength to navigate these challenges without being thrown off balance. Detachment doesn't mean you're unaffected by life's events. It means you're able to respond to them with grace and composure, rather than letting them dictate your emotional state. When you detach from external events, you also gain a deeper sense of freedom. So much of the stress and frustration in life comes from the belief that you need to control every outcome. But when you let go of this need, you experience a sense of lightness. You're no longer weighed down by the pressure to make everything go according to plan. Instead, you're free to focus on what you can control: your thoughts, your actions, and your responses. This shift in focus brings a profound sense of peace and liberation. Detachment also fosters a sense of emotional independence. You stop relying on external circumstances for your happiness and peace of mind. Instead, you realize that your emotional well-being comes from within. This independence empowers you to face life's ups and downs without being overly affected by them. Whether things go your way or not, you remain centered, knowing that your inner peace is not dependent on external events. Another important aspect of detachment is that it allows you to remain flexible. When you're overly attached to a specific outcome, you become rigid and resistant to change. But life is unpredictable, and things rarely go exactly as planned. By detaching from specific outcomes, you remain open to new possibilities and solutions. This flexibility helps you adapt to changing circumstances with ease, preventing frustration and allowing you to navigate challenges more effectively. Detaching from external events also helps you develop patience. Frustration often arises when things don't happen as quickly as you want them to. But when you detach from the need for immediate results, you cultivate patience. You recognize that some things take time, and that trying to rush or control them only leads to unnecessary stress. This patience allows you to approach life with a sense of calm and trust, knowing that everything will unfold in its own time. Another powerful benefit of detachment is that it helps you let go of fear. Fear is often rooted in the desire to control the future, but the future is inherently uncertain. By detaching from the need to predict or control what will happen, you free yourself from the grip of fear. You accept that uncertainty is a natural part of life, And this acceptance allows you to face the unknown with courage rather than anxiety. Detaching from external events also helps you avoid burnout. When you're constantly trying to control everything, you expend a tremendous amount of energy. This leads to emotional exhaustion and frustration. But by detaching from the need to control, you conserve your energy for what truly matters. You focus on what's within your power and let go of the rest, creating a more sustainable and peaceful way of living. Another key insight from Stoicism is that detachment helps you maintain perspective. When you're caught up in external events, it's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture. You become fixated on the immediate problem, forgetting that it's just one small part of a much larger journey. Detachment helps you zoom out and see things in context. You realize that most of the things that cause frustration are temporary and will pass. This perspective shift helps you stay calm and grounded, even in the midst of challenges. Detaching from external events also fosters self-trust. When you're no longer trying to control everything around you, you begin to trust yourself more. You develop confidence in your ability to handle whatever comes your way, knowing that your peace doesn't depend on external circumstances. This self-trust is empowering because it allows you to face life's uncertainties with confidence rather than fear. Detachment also allows you to practice acceptance. One of the core teachings of Stoicism is that life will not always go according to your plans, and that's okay. By accepting this truth, you free yourself from the frustration that comes from trying to force things to be a certain way. Acceptance doesn't mean passivity. It means acknowledging what is and choosing how to respond. This practice of acceptance brings a deep sense of peace and resilience. When you detach from external events, you also learn to let go of perfectionism. So much of your frustration comes from the belief that everything must be perfect, that things must go exactly as planned. But perfection is an illusion, and trying to achieve it only leads to stress and disappointment. By detaching from the need for perfection, you allow yourself to embrace life as it is, messy, unpredictable, and full of surprises. This acceptance brings a sense of ease and joy. Detaching from external events also helps you practice gratitude. When you're no longer fixated on what's going wrong or what's beyond your control, you become more aware of the good things in your life. You start to notice the small moments of joy, the things that are going well, and the blessings that surround you. This shift in focus helps you cultivate a sense of gratitude, which in turn brings more peace and contentment into your life. Another benefit of detachment is that it helps you avoid getting caught up in other people's drama. When you're overly attached to external events, you often find yourself entangled in conflicts and situations that have little to do with you. But by detaching, you maintain your emotional boundaries. You recognize that other people's actions and emotions are their own, and you don't need to take them on. This emotional distance allows you to protect your peace and stay focused on what matters. Detachment also helps you navigate change more effectively. Life is constantly changing, and trying to hold on to the way things were only creates frustration. But by detaching from the need for things to stay the same, you become more adaptable. You learn to flow with change rather than resist it. This adaptability allows you to face life's transitions with grace, knowing that change is a natural part of the journey. Another powerful aspect of detachment is that it helps you practice non-judgment. When you're attached to external events, it's easy to judge them as good or bad, right or wrong. But these judgments often lead to frustration and disappointment. By detaching from judgment, you see things as they are, without the emotional charge of labeling them. This non-judgment brings a sense of peace, because you're no longer caught up in the emotional highs and lows that come with constant evaluation. Detaching from external events also helps you stay focused on your own growth. When you're overly concerned with what's happening around you, you often neglect your own inner development. But by detaching from external outcomes, you free up mental and emotional space to focus on your own journey. This focus on personal growth helps you stay aligned with your values and goals, rather than being distracted by the noise of the outside world. Detachment also fosters a sense of inner strength. When you no longer rely on external events for your peace of mind, you realize how strong you truly are. You discover that you have the power to create your own emotional state, regardless of what's happening around you. This inner strength allows you to face challenges with confidence and grace, knowing that your peace comes from within. Another benefit of detachment is that it helps you let go of the need for approval. So much of your frustration comes from seeking validation from others. But when you detach from the need for external approval, you free yourself from the emotional ups and downs that come with trying to please everyone. You realize that your worth is not determined by others' opinions, and this self-acceptance brings a deep sense of peace. Detachment also allows you to focus on what you can control: your thoughts, your actions, and your responses. When you stop trying to control external events, you redirect your energy toward what's within your power. This focus on what you can control helps you feel more empowered and less overwhelmed by life's challenges. You become the master of your own emotional state, rather than being at the mercy of external circumstances. Another powerful aspect of detachment is that it helps you practice forgiveness. When you're attached to how others should behave, you often hold on to grudges and resentment. But by detaching from the need for others to meet your expectations, you free yourself from the emotional burden of holding on to past hurts. This forgiveness allows you to let go of anger and resentment, creating more space for peace and joy in your life. Detaching from external events also helps you practice mindfulness. When you're no longer fixated on controlling the future or reliving the past, you become more present in the moment. This mindfulness helps you appreciate the here and now without being distracted by worries or regrets. By staying present, you cultivate a sense of peace and contentment that isn't dependent on external circumstances. Detachment also allows you to embrace uncertainty. Life is full of unknowns, and trying to control the future only leads to anxiety. But by detaching from the need for certainty, you learn to trust the process. You accept that you don't have all the answers, and that's okay. This acceptance of uncertainty brings a sense of freedom, because you're no longer weighed down by the need to predict or control the future. When you detach from external events, you also practice self-compassion. You stop blaming yourself for things that are beyond your control, and you allow yourself to let go of perfectionism. This self-compassion helps you navigate life's challenges with greater ease and kindness, knowing that you're doing your best with the circumstances you're given. This practice of self-compassion brings a sense of inner peace that isn't shaken by external events. Finally, detaching from external events helps you align with the core Stoic principle of focusing on what you can control. You cannot control the actions of others, the outcome of situations, or the course of life. But you can control your own thoughts, actions, and responses. By embracing this truth, you free yourself from the emotional turmoil that comes with trying to control the uncontrollable. You protect your peace, strengthen your resilience, and cultivate a deep sense of inner freedom that remains steady no matter what life throws your way. Detaching from external events allows you to see clearly what you can control and what you cannot. In this clarity lies the powerful realization that your reactions, especially anger, are within your control. Stoicism teaches that while the events of life may be beyond your reach, your response to them is always a choice. Anger is not an automatic reaction, though it often feels that way. It is a choice that you make, whether consciously or unconsciously. And once you understand this, you also realize that you have the power to choose differently, to opt for calm, reason, and clarity over rage and frustration. The feeling of anger often emerges so quickly that it seems uncontrollable. But Stoicism reveals that between stimulus and response, there is a gap. In that gap, you have the power to decide how you will react. This realization is liberating because it shows you that anger is not inevitable. It is a path you can walk down, but it is also a path you can avoid. You can decide in any moment to choose a different response, one rooted in patience, understanding, or even silence. Choosing how you respond to situations rather than letting anger dictate your actions gives you agency over your emotions. Anger often feels like it takes control, but the Stoic approach reminds you that you are always in control of your reactions. No matter how intense the situation, you have the ability to pause and decide how to move forward. This practice of pausing before reacting creates space for reflection, allowing you to choose a course of action that aligns with your values rather than letting temporary emotions take over. When you realize that anger is a choice, you gain a sense of empowerment. You are no longer at the mercy of external events or the actions of others. Instead, you hold the power to determine your emotional state. This shift in perspective is transformative. It helps you take responsibility for your reactions and gives you the freedom to choose calmness and clarity in situations that would have previously triggered frustration and rage. One of the most important lessons in Stoicism is that you cannot control what happens to you, but you can always control how you respond. This principle is key to understanding that anger is a choice. The world will throw challenges your way, people will act in ways you don't agree with, and unexpected events will disrupt your plans. But none of these external factors have the power to make you angry unless you allow them to. The power to choose your reaction rests entirely with you. In recognizing that anger is a choice, you also begin to see that it often stems from a desire to control what cannot be controlled. When things don't go according to plan, or when people don't behave as expected, anger arises as a response to this lack of control. But once you understand that you can't control everything and that you don't need to, anger loses its grip on you. You learn to accept what is, rather than getting frustrated by what isn't. Choosing not to react with anger doesn't mean suppressing your emotions or pretending that you're unaffected by difficult situations. Instead, it's about acknowledging your emotions and then consciously deciding how to channel them. Stoicism teaches that you can feel anger without letting it take over. You can observe it, understand its source, and then choose a response that serves your long-term well-being rather than being driven by the immediate emotion. When you choose not to respond with anger, you protect your peace. Anger is a draining emotion. It consumes your energy and clouds your judgment. By choosing a calmer response, you conserve your mental and emotional resources. This doesn't mean avoiding conflict or difficult conversations. It means approaching them with a clear mind and a steady heart. This choice allows you to handle challenges more effectively without being swept away by the emotional storm of anger. Recognizing that anger is a choice also helps you develop greater self-awareness. Each time you pause before reacting, you gain insight into what triggers your anger and why. This self-awareness is the foundation for emotional mastery. It allows you to understand the root of your reactions and to make more thoughtful decisions about how to respond. Over time, this practice of self-reflection helps you become less reactive and more intentional in how you navigate conflict and stress. One of the reasons anger feels so powerful is that it often arises when your expectations are not met. You expect people to act a certain way, or events to unfold according to your plans, and when reality doesn't align with those expectations, anger flares up. But Stoicism teaches that expectations are within your control. You can choose to adjust them, lower them, or let go of them entirely. By doing so, you reduce the chances of anger taking over, because you're no longer holding on to unrealistic or rigid expectations. Choosing not to engage with anger also allows you to maintain your relationships more effectively. Anger can be destructive, damaging your connections with others and creating distance where there could be understanding. But when you choose to respond with calmness and patience, you build stronger relationships. People appreciate when you remain composed in difficult situations, and this composure fosters respect and trust. By choosing not to let anger dictate your actions, you create healthier and more harmonious interactions. The Stoics believed that anger often arises from taking things too personally. When someone criticizes you or behaves poorly, it's easy to interpret their actions as an attack on your character or worth. But in most cases, people's actions are more about them than they are about you. By choosing to detach from this personal interpretation, you free yourself from the emotional charge that leads to anger. You can see the situation more objectively, which helps you respond with clarity rather than defensiveness. Another aspect of choosing your response is understanding that anger rarely solves the problem. While anger may give you a temporary sense of power or righteousness, it usually leads to more conflict and misunderstanding. Stoicism teaches that the goal in any situation should be to resolve the issue, not to escalate it. By choosing a calmer response, you open the door to more constructive dialogue and solutions. You become a problem solver rather than someone who is controlled by their emotions. Choosing how you respond to anger also allows you to align your actions with your values. In the heat of the moment, it's easy to act in ways that you later regret, saying things you don't mean, or behaving in ways that go against your principles. But when you pause and reflect before responding, you ensure that your actions are in line with who you want to be. This alignment with your values creates a sense of integrity and peace, even in challenging situations. Another powerful benefit of recognizing that anger is a choice is that it helps you stay focused on what truly matters. Anger often distracts you from your goals and priorities, pulling you into emotional battles that are ultimately unproductive. But when you choose to respond with calmness, you keep your focus on what's important. You don't get sidetracked by temporary frustrations, and you remain committed to your long-term objectives. Choosing not to react with anger also fosters emotional resilience. Each time you choose calmness over anger, you strengthen your ability to handle stress and conflict with grace. Over time, this practice becomes second nature. You become more grounded, less reactive, and better equipped to face life's challenges without being overwhelmed by emotion. This resilience is a key component of emotional mastery, helping you stay centered in the face of adversity. One of the most empowering aspects of recognizing that anger is a choice is that it gives you control over your emotional state. You are no longer a passive participant in your emotional life, reacting to whatever comes your way. Instead, you become an active creator of your emotional experience. You choose how you feel, how you react, and how you move through the world. This sense of control brings a deep sense of peace and empowerment. Choosing not to engage with anger also helps you develop greater empathy. When you're angry, it's easy to focus on your own feelings and ignore the perspective of others. But when you choose calmness, you create space to consider the other person's viewpoint. This empathy allows for more compassionate interactions, where both parties feel heard and understood. By choosing to respond with understanding rather than anger, you foster stronger connections and more meaningful relationships. Another benefit of choosing not to react with anger is that it helps you maintain emotional clarity. Anger clouds your judgment, making it difficult to see the situation clearly. But when you choose calmness, you remain clear-headed. This clarity allows you to make better decisions, both in the moment and in the long term. You're able to navigate conflict more effectively because you're not being driven by intense emotions. Recognizing that anger is a choice also helps you let go of the need to control others. So much of your frustration comes from trying to change how others behave or think. But Stoicism teaches that you cannot control anyone but yourself. By letting go of this need for control, you free yourself from the anger that arises when people don't meet your expectations. You learn to accept others as they are, which allows for more harmonious and peaceful interactions. Choosing not to react with anger also helps you protect your energy. Anger is exhausting. It drains you mentally, emotionally, and physically. But when you choose a calmer response, you conserve your energy for what truly matters. This energy management allows you to stay focused on your goals and maintain your emotional well-being, even in the face of challenges. Another powerful insight from Stoicism is that choosing how you respond to anger helps you practice forgiveness. Anger often arises from holding on to past grievances, but forgiveness allows you to let go of these emotional burdens. By choosing to forgive, you free yourself from the grip of anger and create more space for peace and joy in your life. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing bad behavior, but it does mean choosing not to let anger control your emotional state. Choosing not to react with anger also helps you develop patience. Anger often arises from a desire for immediate results or solutions, but life rarely unfolds on your timeline. By choosing calmness and patience, you accept that some things take time. This acceptance helps you navigate life's challenges with greater ease and reduces the frustration that comes from unmet expectations. When you choose how you respond to anger, you also practice emotional freedom. Reacting in anger often feels like being a prisoner of your emotions, but choosing calmness gives you the freedom to act in alignment with your values and intentions. This emotional freedom is empowering because it allows you to face life's challenges with confidence, knowing that you are in control of your emotional state. Choosing not to react with anger also helps you build stronger relationships. Anger can create distance and conflict, but calmness fosters connection and understanding. When you choose to respond with patience and empathy, you create a space for meaningful dialogue and resolution. This choice strengthens your relationships and builds trust, making it easier to navigate future challenges together. Recognizing that anger is a choice also helps you practice mindfulness. When you're mindful of your emotions, you're able to observe them without being consumed by them. This mindfulness creates a gap between stimulus and response, allowing you to choose your reaction with intention. By practicing mindfulness, you develop greater control over your emotions and reduce the likelihood of being swept away by anger. Another benefit of choosing how you respond to anger is that it helps you stay aligned with your goals. Anger often distracts you from what's truly important, pulling you into emotional battles that have little to do with your long-term objectives. But when you choose calmness, you stay focused on your goals and priorities. This focus helps you maintain your momentum and stay on track, even in the face of challenges. Choosing not to react with anger also helps you practice emotional balance. Anger often leads to emotional highs and lows, but calmness allows you to maintain a steady emotional state. This balance is crucial for navigating life's challenges with grace and resilience. By choosing to remain calm, you create a sense of stability in your life that is not easily shaken by external events. When you choose how you respond to anger, you also practice accountability. Reacting in anger often leads to blaming others for your emotional state, But choosing calmness requires you to take responsibility for your actions. This accountability helps you build stronger relationships and fosters a sense of integrity, knowing that you are in control of your emotional responses. Choosing not to react with anger also helps you practice gratitude. When you're caught up in anger, it's easy to focus on what's wrong or what's missing. But when you choose calmness, you create space to appreciate what's going well. This shift in focus helps you cultivate a sense of gratitude, which in turn brings more peace and contentment into your life. Recognizing that anger is a choice also helps you practice self-compassion. When you choose calmness, you allow yourself to let go of the guilt or shame that often accompanies anger. You recognize that you're doing your best, and you give yourself permission to learn and grow from the experience. This self-compassion fosters emotional healing and helps you move forward with greater peace and understanding. Choosing not to react with anger also helps you maintain emotional boundaries. Reacting in anger often leads to taking on other people's emotions and making their problems your own. But when you choose calmness, you maintain healthy emotional boundaries. You recognize that while you can empathize with others, you don't have to absorb their emotions or let their actions dictate your feelings. Finally, recognizing that anger is a choice helps you align with the core Stoic principle of focusing on what you can control. You cannot control the actions of others or the events of life, but you can always control how you respond. By choosing calmness and clarity over anger, you reclaim your emotional power, protect your peace, and navigate life's challenges with grace and resilience. Recognizing that anger is a choice gives you incredible control over your emotional reactions, but there are moments when the intensity of anger can feel overwhelming. Even though you know you have the power to choose calmness, the physical and mental impact of anger can be hard to shake. This is where Stoic breathing techniques become essential tools. Stoicism doesn't only provide philosophical insights, it also offers practical methods to calm the body and mind instantly. Through conscious breathing, you can take control of the physiological response to anger, creating a bridge between intention and action. Breathing is one of the most direct ways to influence your emotional state. When you're angry, your breath becomes shallow, quick, and erratic. This pattern sends signals to your brain that something is wrong, which intensifies the emotion. By deliberately slowing down and controlling your breathing, you can send the opposite signal, that you are safe, calm, and in control. This shift in your breathing pattern immediately affects your emotional state, helping to diffuse anger before it takes over. One of the most important aspects of Stoic breathing is that it roots you in the present moment. Anger often pulls you into thoughts about the past or worries about the future, replaying what went wrong or predicting further conflict. But breathing draws you back to the here and now. When you focus on your breath, you bring your attention to the present, helping to interrupt the flow of angry thoughts. This focus creates a pause, giving you the mental space to choose a more measured response. Stoic breathing also helps you regain control of your body's stress response. Anger triggers the fight or flight response, flooding your body with stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. This physical reaction makes it harder to think clearly and often leads to impulsive actions. But controlled, deep breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which calms your body and mind. This physiological shift reduces the intensity of anger, allowing you to regain clarity and control. Another benefit of Stoic breathing is that it helps you slow down your heart rate. When you're angry, your heart starts racing, which can make you feel even more agitated. By practicing deep, rhythmic breathing, you can bring your heart rate back down to a steady pace. This not only calms your mind, but also reduces the physical discomfort that comes with anger, such as tension in the chest or tightness in the throat. Breathing exercises also create a sense of internal balance. Anger often feels chaotic and overwhelming, but when you focus on your breath, you establish a steady rhythm. This rhythm creates a feeling of stability, helping to ground you when emotions are running high. With each slow, controlled breath, you cultivate a sense of balance that allows you to face the situation with greater composure and calmness. Stoic breathing techniques also serve as a reminder that you always have the power to influence your emotional state. Even when external events are beyond your control, your breath is always within your reach. This realization is empowering because it shows you that you don't need to rely on external circumstances to feel calm or in control. Your breath becomes a tool that you can use at any moment to calm your mind and body, giving you a sense of control over how you experience the world. Another key aspect of Stoic breathing is its ability to help you release tension. Anger often causes your muscles to tighten. Your jaw clenches, your shoulders hunch, and your fists may even ball up. This physical tension feeds back into your emotional state, keeping you stuck in a cycle of frustration. But when you practice deep breathing, you help your body relax. As your muscles release their tension, your mind follows suit, making it easier to let go of the anger that was gripping you. Breathing exercises also promote mindfulness. When you focus on your breath, you become more aware of your internal state. You start to notice the early signs of anger before it fully takes over, such as a faster heartbeat or a tightening in your chest. This awareness gives you the opportunity to intervene before the emotion escalates. By practicing mindful breathing regularly, you become more attuned to your body's signals, allowing you to address anger at its root before it becomes overwhelming. Stoic breathing also fosters patience. In moments of anger, there is often a rush to act or react, driven by the intensity of the emotion, but breathing helps you slow down. As you take deep, measured breaths, you create a buffer between the stimulus and your response. This pause gives you time to think, reflect, and choose a more thoughtful reaction. The practice of breathing helps you cultivate patience, allowing you to respond with clarity rather than impulsiveness. Another powerful aspect of Stoic breathing is that it helps you practice non-attachment to the emotion of anger. When you breathe deeply and mindfully, you create a sense of detachment from the intensity of the feeling. You observe the anger without becoming fully immersed in it. This observation allows you to create space between yourself and the emotion, recognizing that anger is temporary and does not define you. As you breathe, you let the emotion pass through you rather than allowing it to take control. Breathing also connects you to the Stoic principle of focusing on what you can control. When you're caught up in anger, you often focus on things that are beyond your control, other people's actions, the outcome of a situation, or external circumstances. But breathing draws your attention inward, reminding you that your breath is always within your control. This focus helps you shift your energy away from the uncontrollable and back to the one thing you can influence: yourself. Another benefit of Stoic breathing is that it helps you manage your thoughts. Anger is often fueled by a cascade of negative thoughts, replaying the situation in your mind and magnifying your frustration. But when you focus on your breath, you quiet the mental chatter. You bring your attention away from the thoughts that are fueling your anger and back to the steady rhythm of your breath. This shift in focus helps to break the cycle of rumination and reduces the intensity of your emotions. Breathing also helps you practice acceptance. In moments of anger, there is often resistance to what is happening. You want the situation to be different, and this resistance creates internal conflict. But when you focus on your breath, you create a sense of acceptance. Each inhale and exhale reminds you to accept the present moment as it is, without trying to fight or change it. This acceptance helps to dissolve the anger, allowing you to move forward with greater ease and peace. Stoic breathing techniques also encourage emotional resilience. Each time you practice calming your mind and body through breathing, you strengthen your ability to handle difficult emotions. Over time, this practice becomes second nature, allowing you to face challenging situations with greater calmness and composure. Breathing becomes a tool that you can rely on in moments of stress, helping you bounce back from emotional turbulence more quickly. Another powerful benefit of Stoic breathing is that it helps you regulate your emotions. Anger can feel like a runaway train, but breathing gives you a way to slow it down. By taking slow, deep breaths, you signal to your brain that it's time to calm down. This physiological shift helps to regulate your emotions, making it easier to manage the intensity of anger and bring yourself back to a state of equilibrium. Breathing also helps you develop greater emotional awareness. When you focus on your breath, you become more attuned to how emotions affect your body. You start to notice the physical sensations that accompany anger, such as tension, heat, or tightness. This awareness allows you to catch the emotion early before it escalates. By practicing mindful breathing regularly, you become more skilled at identifying and managing your emotions in real time. Stoic breathing techniques also foster a sense of calm in the midst of chaos. In moments of anger, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the intensity of the situation. But breathing helps you create an oasis of calm within yourself, even when the external world is chaotic. This internal calm allows you to approach challenges with greater clarity and focus, making it easier to navigate difficult situations without being swept away by your emotions. Another benefit of Stoic breathing is that it helps you practice self-compassion. Anger can be a harsh and self-critical emotion, often leading to feelings of guilt or shame. But when you practice deep, mindful breathing, you create a sense of kindness and care toward yourself. Each breath becomes an act of self-compassion, reminding you that it's okay to feel anger, but that you have the power to calm yourself and move forward with grace. Breathing exercises also help you cultivate a sense of inner strength. When you take control of your breath, you take control of your emotional state. This sense of mastery over your own body and mind helps you feel stronger and more resilient. You realize that no matter what is happening around you, you have the power to remain calm and composed through the simple act of breathing. Stoic breathing also aligns with the principle of moderation. Anger is often an extreme emotion, pushing you to act in ways that are out of balance, but breathing helps you restore equilibrium. By focusing on your breath, you bring yourself back to a state of moderation where your emotions are balanced and your actions are measured. This practice of moderation helps you navigate life's challenges with greater stability and wisdom. Another powerful aspect of Stoic breathing is that it helps you build emotional endurance. Life is full of challenges, and anger is a natural response to many of them. But by practicing Stoic breathing regularly, you build the emotional stamina needed to handle these challenges without being overwhelmed. Each time you calm your mind and body through breathing, you strengthen your ability to remain composed in difficult situations. Breathing also helps you connect with the present moment. Anger often pulls you into thoughts about the past, what went wrong, who said what, or how things should have been different. But when you focus on your breath, you bring your attention back to the here and now. This presence allows you to see the situation more clearly, without being clouded by past frustrations or future worries. Stoic breathing techniques also encourage flexibility in your emotional responses. Anger can make you rigid, stuck in a single perspective or reaction. But breathing helps you soften this rigidity, allowing you to see the situation from different angles. This flexibility helps you approach the problem with an open mind, making it easier to find creative solutions and resolve the issue without escalating the conflict. Another benefit of Stoic breathing is that it helps you let go of the need for control. Anger often arises from a desire to control what cannot be controlled, other people's actions, the outcome of a situation, or external circumstances. But when you focus on your breath, you shift your attention away from the uncontrollable and back to what is within your power. This practice of letting go brings a sense of peace and freedom, reducing the emotional intensity of anger. Breathing also helps you practice non-attachment. Anger often comes from being overly attached to a specific outcome or expectation. But when you breathe deeply and mindfully, you create a sense of detachment from these expectations. You realize that while you may not be able to control the outcome, you can control how you respond. This detachment helps you release the grip of anger and approach the situation with a clearer, more balanced perspective. Stoic breathing techniques also promote gratitude. When you focus on your breath, you become more aware of the simple yet profound gift of being alive. Each breath is a reminder of the present moment, of your capacity to experience life, and of the many things you have to be grateful for. This shift in focus helps to dissolve anger and replace it with a sense of appreciation and contentment. Breathing exercises also help you develop greater emotional flexibility. Anger often arises from feeling stuck or trapped in a particular situation, but breathing helps you create a sense of space and openness within yourself. This emotional flexibility allows you to navigate challenges with greater ease, adapting to changing circumstances without being overwhelmed by frustration. Another benefit of Stoic breathing is that it helps you practice emotional detachment. When you're caught up in anger, it's easy to become entangled in the emotion, losing sight of the bigger picture. But breathing helps you step back and observe the emotion from a distance. This detachment allows you to see the situation more objectively, making it easier to choose a response that aligns with your long-term well-being. Breathing also helps you practice acceptance. In moments of anger, there is often resistance to what is happening, but when you focus on your breath, you create a sense of acceptance. Each inhale and exhale reminds you to accept the present moment as it is, without trying to fight or change it. This acceptance helps to dissolve the anger, allowing you to move forward with greater ease and peace. Stoic breathing techniques also help you cultivate patience. In moments of anger, there is often a rush to act or react, driven by the intensity of the emotion. But breathing helps you slow down. As you take deep, measured breaths, you create a buffer between the stimulus and your response. This pause gives you time to think, reflect, and choose a more thoughtful reaction. Breathing is an immediate, powerful tool that connects you with your inner strength. It allows you to navigate through anger and frustration with ease, shifting from reaction to calmness within moments. By consistently practicing Stoic breathing, you gain mastery over your emotional state, ensuring that your responses are always aligned with your highest self, no matter the external challenges you face. Breathing techniques offer a profound way to calm the mind and body, guiding you through moments of anger. Yet, after calming down, there is a deeper practice that Stoicism encourages: the art of letting go. Once the storm of anger has passed, what remains is the lingering emotional weight. This is where letting go becomes essential. Stoicism teaches that holding on to anger is not only harmful, but unnecessary. Letting go is a skill that frees you from the emotional burdens that disrupt your peace, allowing you to move forward with clarity and strength. Letting go begins with the understanding that anger is often rooted in attachment. You hold on to expectations of how people should behave or how situations should unfold, and when reality doesn't match those expectations, anger arises. The Stoic philosophy encourages the release of these attachments, teaching that the more tightly you hold on, the more suffering you create for yourself. Letting go of these attachments is not about giving up, but about freeing yourself from the emotional turmoil they create. One of the core insights of Stoicism is that you cannot control external events, only your reaction to them. This truth is at the heart of letting go. When you accept that you cannot change what has already happened, you release the need to dwell on it. Letting go becomes a way of reclaiming your emotional freedom. You stop replaying the situation in your mind, and with each release, you bring yourself closer to inner peace. Letting go also requires humility. Anger often comes from a place of pride, a feeling that you've been wronged or disrespected. But when you let go of the need to be right or to win, you allow yourself to release the emotional charge that keeps anger alive. Humility is the key to recognizing that clinging to anger serves no purpose other than to keep you stuck in the past. By practicing humility, you open the door to forgiveness and emotional release. Another important aspect of letting go is understanding that holding on to anger harms you more than anyone else. Anger creates tension, stress, and emotional pain. It keeps you trapped in a cycle of negativity, preventing you from experiencing joy and peace. When you let go, you're not just releasing the anger toward others, you're releasing the grip it has on you. This release brings a sense of emotional lightness, allowing you to move forward without the weight of resentment. Letting go also helps you practice forgiveness. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior, but it does mean choosing not to let that behavior control your emotions any longer. Stoicism teaches that everyone is doing the best they can with the knowledge and resources they have. By embracing this perspective, you can let go of the need for retribution or justice and focus on your own emotional well-being. Forgiveness becomes a way to free yourself from the past. In letting go, you also learn to detach from the narrative of victimhood. Anger often keeps you locked in a story where you are the victim and someone else is the villain. But Stoicism teaches that you have the power to rewrite that story. By letting go, you take responsibility for your emotional state and choose not to see yourself as a victim. This shift in perspective is empowering, as it allows you to reclaim your sense of agency and move forward with strength. Letting go is a practice that requires patience. Anger can be deeply rooted, and releasing it is not always immediate. But with each step, each moment of choosing to let go, you create more space for peace in your life. The practice of letting go is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process of releasing what no longer serves you. Each time you let go, you reaffirm your commitment to your own emotional freedom. Another powerful aspect of letting go is that it helps you focus on the present. Anger often keeps you stuck in the past, reliving the moments that triggered the emotion. But when you let go, you bring your attention back to the present moment. You stop replaying the past and start living in the now. This shift in focus allows you to experience life more fully without being weighed down by past grievances. Letting go also helps you cultivate compassion. When you hold on to anger, it's easy to focus on the faults and mistakes of others. But when you release that anger, you open yourself up to seeing their humanity. You recognize that they, like you, are imperfect, and that their actions are often driven by their own pain or confusion. This understanding allows you to approach others with more kindness and empathy, softening the anger and replacing it with compassion. Another benefit of letting go is that it helps you regain your emotional balance. Anger throws you off course, disrupting your inner calm and clarity. But when you let go, you restore that balance. You stop being pulled in different emotional directions and return to a state of equilibrium. This balance allows you to approach life's challenges with greater composure and resilience, knowing that you have the power to release what doesn't serve you. Letting go also fosters emotional independence. When you hold on to anger, you give power to the external circumstances or people who triggered it. But when you let go, you reclaim that power. You realize that your emotional state is not dependent on what others say or do, but on your own choices. This emotional independence is liberating because it frees you from the need for external validation or control. In the process of letting go, you also learn to accept imperfection. Life is messy, and people make mistakes. Holding on to anger often comes from the unrealistic expectation that things should be perfect. But Stoicism teaches that imperfection is a natural part of life. By letting go of the need for everything to be flawless, you free yourself from the frustration that arises when things don't go according to plan. This acceptance of imperfection brings a sense of peace and ease. Letting go also helps you protect your energy. Anger is draining. It consumes your mental, emotional, and even physical energy. When you hold on to anger, you deplete your resources, leaving you feeling exhausted and worn down. But when you let go, you conserve your energy for what truly matters. You focus on what brings you peace and joy, rather than wasting your energy on resentment and frustration. Another powerful aspect of letting go is that it helps you practice non-attachment. Stoicism teaches that attachment to outcomes, expectations, or even relationships can lead to suffering. Letting go is an exercise in non-attachment, where you release your grip on what you think should happen and embrace what is. This practice of non-attachment allows you to flow with life's changes rather than resisting them, reducing the emotional turbulence that often accompanies anger. Letting go also fosters self-compassion. When you release anger, you're not just forgiving others, you're also forgiving yourself. Anger often brings with it feelings of guilt or shame for having held on to the emotion in the first place. But when you let go, you practice self-compassion by acknowledging that you're human and that holding on to anger is part of the learning process. This self-compassion helps you move forward with kindness toward yourself, rather than being weighed down by self-criticism. In letting go, you also strengthen your resilience. Anger can make you feel fragile, as though the slightest trigger will set you off. But when you let go, you build emotional resilience. You become less reactive and more able to handle life's challenges with grace. This resilience allows you to face difficult situations without being overwhelmed by anger, knowing that you have the inner strength to release what doesn't serve you. Letting go also helps you develop greater emotional clarity. Anger often clouds your judgment, making it difficult to see the situation clearly. But when you release the anger, you gain a clearer perspective. You're able to see the situation for what it is, without the emotional distortion that anger creates. This clarity allows you to make more thoughtful decisions and respond to challenges with greater wisdom. Another benefit of letting go is that it helps you cultivate inner peace. Anger disrupts your peace of mind, creating internal conflict and tension. But when you let go, you restore that peace. You stop fighting against what has happened and start accepting it. This acceptance brings a sense of calm and serenity, allowing you to move through life with greater ease and tranquility. Letting go also helps you develop patience. Anger often arises from a desire for immediate resolution or justice, but life doesn't always move at the pace you want it to. Letting go helps you cultivate patience, allowing you to accept that some things take time to resolve. This patience helps you navigate challenges with greater grace, knowing that you don't need to rush or force a solution. In the process of letting go, you also learn to trust yourself. Anger can make you doubt your ability to handle difficult situations, but when you release the emotion, you reaffirm your inner strength. You trust that you have the wisdom and resilience to face whatever comes your way without being consumed by anger. This trust in yourself brings a sense of confidence and empowerment. Letting go also helps you practice emotional detachment. When you're caught up in anger, it's easy to become entangled in the emotion, losing sight of the bigger picture. But letting go helps you step back and observe the situation from a distance. This detachment allows you to see things more objectively, making it easier to release the emotional charge that keeps you stuck in anger. Another powerful aspect of letting go is that it helps you practice acceptance. In moments of anger, there is often resistance to what has happened. You want the situation to be different, and this resistance creates internal conflict. But when you let go, you create a sense of acceptance. You acknowledge what has happened without trying to fight or change it. This acceptance helps to dissolve the anger, allowing you to move forward with greater peace. Letting go also fosters emotional flexibility. Anger often makes you rigid, stuck in a single perspective or reaction. But when you let go, you create space for new possibilities. You become more open to different solutions and perspectives, making it easier to navigate the situation with grace. This flexibility helps you move through life's challenges with greater ease, adapting to change without being overwhelmed by frustration. In the process of letting go, you also learn to practice forgiveness. Anger often comes from holding on to past grievances, but forgiveness allows you to release those emotional burdens. By choosing to forgive, you free yourself from the grip of anger and create more space for peace and joy in your life. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing bad behavior, but it does mean choosing not to let anger control your emotional state. Letting go also helps you develop greater self-awareness. Each time you release anger, you gain insight into what triggers the emotion and why. This self-awareness allows you to understand the root of your reactions and make more thoughtful decisions about how to respond in the future. Over time, this practice of self-reflection helps you become less reactive and more intentional in how you navigate conflict and stress. Another benefit of letting go is that it helps you protect your relationships. Anger can create distance between you and others, but when you release the emotion, you create space for understanding and connection. Letting go allows you to approach others with more compassion and empathy, strengthening your relationships and fostering greater harmony in your interactions. Letting go also helps you practice gratitude. When you're caught up in anger, it's easy to focus on what's wrong or what's missing. But when you release the anger, you create space to appreciate what's going well. This shift in focus helps you cultivate a sense of gratitude, which in turn brings more peace and contentment into your life. In the process of letting go, you also learn to embrace the present moment. Anger often keeps you stuck in the past, reliving the moments that triggered the emotion. But when you let go, you bring your attention back to the present. You stop replaying the past and start living in the now. This shift in focus allows you to experience life more fully without being weighed down by past grievances. Letting go also helps you develop emotional endurance. Life is full of challenges, and anger is a natural response to many of them. But by practicing letting go, you build the emotional stamina needed to handle these challenges without being overwhelmed. Each time you release anger, you strengthen your ability to face difficulties with grace and resilience. Another powerful aspect of letting go is that it helps you practice non-attachment to the outcome. Anger often comes from being overly attached to a specific outcome or expectation. But when you let go, you release your grip on what you think should happen and embrace what is. This practice of non-attachment allows you to flow with life's changes rather than resisting them, reducing the emotional turbulence that often accompanies anger. Letting go also helps you cultivate emotional independence. When you release anger, you reclaim your power over your emotional state. You realize that your peace of mind is not dependent on external circumstances, but on your own choices. This emotional independence is liberating because it frees you from the need for external validation or control. In the process of letting go, you also strengthen your emotional resilience. Each time you release anger, you build your capacity to handle life's challenges without being overwhelmed. This resilience allows you to face difficult situations with greater calmness and composure, knowing that you have the inner strength to let go of what doesn't serve you. Letting go also helps you develop greater emotional clarity. Anger often clouds your judgment, making it difficult to see the situation clearly. But when you release the anger, you gain a clearer perspective. You're able to see the situation for what it is, without the emotional distortion that anger creates. This clarity allows you to make more thoughtful decisions and respond to challenges with greater wisdom. Another benefit of letting go is that it helps you maintain your emotional balance. Anger throws you off course, disrupting your inner calm and clarity. But when you let go, you restore that balance. You stop being pulled in different emotional directions and return to a state of equilibrium. This balance allows you to approach life's challenges with greater composure and resilience. In letting go, you also practice emotional freedom. Anger often feels like a burden, weighing you down and keeping you stuck in the past. But when you let go, you free yourself from that burden. You release the emotional weight and create space for peace, joy, and contentment. This emotional freedom allows you to move forward with greater ease, knowing that you have the power to let go of what doesn't serve you. Letting go also helps you practice mindfulness. When you release anger, you bring your attention back to the present moment. You stop dwelling on the past and start experiencing life as it unfolds. This mindfulness helps you stay grounded and focused, reducing the emotional turbulence that often accompanies anger. In the process of letting go, you also learn to trust yourself. Anger can make you doubt your ability to handle difficult situations, but when you release the emotion, you reaffirm your inner strength. You trust that you have the wisdom and resilience to face whatever comes your way without being consumed by anger. Finally, letting go helps you align with the core Stoic principle of focusing on what you can control. You cannot control the actions of others or the events of life, but you can always control how you respond. By practicing the art of letting go, you free yourself from the emotional weight of anger and reclaim your peace, knowing that you have the power to release what doesn't serve you. Mastering anger through Stoicism isn't about suppressing your emotions. It's about understanding them, taking control, and finding peace within yourself. By applying the principles you've learned, from pausing before reacting to letting go of what you can't control, you're building a life of emotional strength and resilience. Stoicism empowers you to turn anger into a tool for growth, fostering clarity, calm, and inner peace. Remember, the power to control your emotions is always within you. Every step you take on this path brings you closer to living a life of greater balance and tranquility. If this guide has resonated with you or helped you in any way, let's keep the conversation going. Leave a comment below with how you plan to apply these Stoic principles in your own life. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. And if you want more content to help you lead a peaceful and empowered life, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification